wanted you. Freedom becoming true. Nobody else like you. Do what you promised to. And I'm so grateful for your love. And all my eyes have seen the wonders of your mystery received. I've tasted what it means. Now nothing else is good enough for me. You're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need. Oh, I need you. Yeah, I need you. Oh, I need you now. Now I owe it all to you, giving my heart to you. Freedom becoming true. Nobody else like you. Do what you promised to, and I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your love. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I need you in my life.
What's up, everybody? We are live in the building Tuesday night. You know how we do it. We are in the Lion's Den, ready to have some conversations, ready to talk about what's going on in the world. It's a lot happening. But if you're in the chat, make sure you hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Yeah, you're watching Young Lion TV. Let's go.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they dying. Everywhere I look, they dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they dying. Everywhere I look, they dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding. Young lion.
Yes, we are live. Like I said, you're watching Young Lion TV. Hey, shout out to all the people that are chiming in the chat already. We appreciate each and every one of you. I see you pop over there. He said, let's talk about it. One of our Lion King Patreon members. And speaking of that, if you want to become a Patreon member and support the cause of the Young Lions, head on over to patreon.com/YoungLionTV. Sign up for one of those tiers. You can become a member easily if you like supporting men having real conversations, talking about real things, culture, politics, relationships, race issues, stuff that we always talk about.
Race.
Do we not talk about race issues?
That's what he said. Race issues.
Race issues. We had a whole conversation about Indians last week. You missed it. You missed it last week. We had a who's wanting
My people.
conversation. But yeah, we've been having these conversations for years because we're all like friends, family, brothers, and
we don't get offended.
We don't get offended, man. You know, we're so culturally diverse.
We're made up of everybody. That's why.
So you can't be offended.
I'm offending me.
Yeah. But no, shout out to everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button, share this video with your friends if that's the easiest thing you can do to support us. We appreciate all the Rumble watchers. Make sure you guys hit that Rumble up button. And YouTube watchers, if you're watching on X, if you're on Twitch, man, we appreciate each and every one of you. But yeah, I got my brothers with me this evening. I got my brother-in-law, aka the most confusing man. When you see him, you think he's a black guy. When you get in the car with him and you hear his music, you're like, this ain't a black guy.
It's an old black guy.
It's an old black
Not
guy. Even an old black guy. Once you start spinning Jamiroquai and some Brazilian jazz, no.
Insanity.
Yeah, but he's Mr. James Garcia in the building. And of course,
funny.
we got the coolest Asian in the game. James calls him the dark ass Asian. He is Mr. Simone Chang in the building.
Good evening. Good evening.
And we got to give a special air horn. She's back from her long hiatus. You know, unfortunately, what happened? Oh, you hit the
there
wrong
she
button.
goes.
There she is. She's out of practice.
I thought it was 4.
She's
It
out of
was 3.
practice.
It was always 4.
I know, but we changed it before you left, and you forgot. So she's back by popular demand, aka my daughter's tired of doing it. No, but she's back in town. You know, and we have to give a special shout out to our family who lost, you know, my grandmother and her mother last week, and you know, we're happy to have you back, Mom. We appreciate you. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being back. So my mom is back here producing, and rest in peace to my abuela. And yeah, I'm over here doing my thing. We were talking about Terrence Howard earlier. You know how I always say, any light-skinned guy, especially with a beard, you know, mixed guy. One of the guys on my soccer team goes to me on Sunday. He's like, "Yo, did I ever tell you, like, did anyone ever say you look like Terrence Howard?"
No.
I was like,
You look nothing.
I was like, bro, I've never gotten Terrence Howard before. I'm like, he's like, Blake Griffin? I'm like, yeah, I got that one.
Listen, what we do know is if you ever commit a crime, you'd be hard to find.
I know.
Blending with
They be-
everybody.
they be blaming everybody under the sun. Yeah.
Terrence Howard did it. Yeah, he did.
Or I'm gonna get accused for some stuff I didn't do. Any mixed, you know,
Right.
ambiguous guy with a beard is getting blamed.
That's true.
Yeah, but yeah, it's funny. What'd you say, Mom?
Here, like,
There is like an echo.
echo
Where is
somewhere.
it coming from?
Not my phone because I have it off.
1, 2.
Mine is off. Check.
Is that still coming from the TV?
I'll
1,
check.
2. I think it's coming from that TV.
1, 2.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'll turn it off. Make sure you guys drop a comment in. Let us know who's watching, where you're watching from. But what we got going on? Oh, don't forget to go to our website if you want to get some merch. time.com/shop, where you can get t-shirts, hats, all that good stuff. And we're preparing for another show at City Winery in August 9th, I believe. August 9th.
I'm not sure.
So we're going to be doing another show out there.
We can finally announce it.
Yeah.
How was your show with the other band?
It was cool. It was cool. You know, a couple of our people showed up. It was interesting. Like the dude, he's a younger guy. A guy of faith. His dad's a pastor. His dad actually came up and like did a little sermon in between the show, which was funny. But you know, it's interesting because that age demographic, he's a lot younger than us. And like we've done a bunch of shows there and people come out, you know, it's usually a good time. But they did it like no tables, standing room. Like they were expecting to like pack the place out. This guy has 1 million followers on TikTok and like hundreds of thousands on Instagram.
Okay.
But it was like 40 people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty empty.
So it was kind of like, you know, and this is his first major tour, I think. He signed to Capitol, I believe, one of them labels. So they were putting this U.S. tour around. We just got the call from the booker at City Winery. He was like, yo, I think you guys would be a good fit to open up for this guy.
That's nice.
So they called us to do that. And yeah, we were like, okay, we'll do it. We only were doing 30 minutes, so we didn't make it a big deal, like trying to get a bunch of people to come to that because we know we got this show cut up in August.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I did expect it to be like a bigger crowd,
Right. Me
You know,
too. I thought it
just
was
from
gonna
his
be-
following. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Jamie told me that you guys are going to be going away during me and Lisi's birthday.
Yes. Father's Day weekend.
Oh yeah, that is Father's Day weekend. Huh?
Yep.
And
Yes.
We usually
we'll
do go away for
Yeah,
Father's
Mother's Day
Mother's
and
Day and Father's Day.
Father's
no, but I'm
Day.
saying it didn't fit, but it didn't fall on our birthday. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it does, but
I don't remember that.
you know, we usually do the event a different day, like because we've done it. I mean, we went to England on Lisi's birthday.
Yeah,
Remember, we
we did. I
left the
remember that.
birthday party
Right. Yeah.
and went to England.
But I remember you always, when Mother's Day, you were gone. But now this Mother's Day, you'll be
Yeah, we're here for this Mother's Day.
That's nice.
So be
I'm
thankful
not.
for that.
Yes,
I'll be in Atlanta.
Oh, you be in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, where are you going? What are you doing?
Meeting up with Papa Jeff.
Oh, nice.
It's one of our friends, Ashley, is graduating college,
Yeah.
and it's Papa Jeff's birthday weekend too. So
Oh, okay.
Jessica was supposed to go too, but she can't fly right now.
Okay. Why not?
Cause trying to.
Oh, there's something about flying with that
Yeah.
when you're trying to have a baby. Like,
Yeah.
either like you can't be in the air, elevation,
Something with the pressure, I guess. I
Pressure.
don't,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know the
You guys
detail.
having a baby?
trying to, Mom.
Oh,
Trying
I thought
to.
that you were having a. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So Jake's supposed to be joining us on the stream via remote like last week, but he's gonna let me know when he jumps on. In the meantime,
Yo, I'm finally just seeing, because you said, Papa just said, let's talk about it. I'm finally just seeing that right now.
really?
Right downstairs in the basement. So
Yeah.
I'm that slow. That's shout out to Uncle Denny. I don't know if he's in here, but he was there at the family reunion, and I got to talk to him a little bit, and he said something funny about how before we get to reading his thing, we always have jumped to like the second or third thing we're talking about. I was like, sorry about that, Pop.
he needs you. He's like, come on, man, read that, man. So I took my time to write that.
Because we're always like getting sidetracked with But it was cool. We Jessica's and Papa Jeff's family reunion was in like a historical town, so they did like a tour of what's his first name? I think his name was John Bellamy, and he was like this rich guy that owned a plantation. So they made his house like a museum where they do like tour guides. So we got to see, how they, conducted their business, and their slave quarters, which was in the back of the back of the mansion. It was cool to see the history.
Where was this at?
Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And then we did a carriage ride with the lady. She gave us like a tour of like the whole historical town, and I didn't know. When we were going through the town, I was like, "Are we in Portland right now?" Because there's like super.
It was very liberal.
And gay flags.
Well, I'm jealous of you and Papa Jeff's relationship because my father-in-law wants to beat me up. Your father-in-law wants to hang out with you. He's like, he's inviting you to a
My
trip.
father-in-law loves me.
My father-in-law
I'm going.
my father-in-law hoping ICE gets me.
Yeah. And you stop dating white women. You're like, I want a father-in-law that's gonna understand me.
Understand me, you know what I'm saying?
Did not work. All right, let's get into some stuff. So we're gonna get into some of the racial tension that's been going on in the country lately.
Races.
But first, before we do,
There's racial tension in the country.
yeah.
When is there ever
When
not?
is there not? I mean, I feel like we did have a lull, like in the '90s. Man, it felt like racism wasn't really.
That was there.
It was little pockets, but it wasn't
Yeah.
Man, I got here when OJ was going on. I didn't get the memo.
like. Yeah.
I saw all these angry whites looking at me.
Yeah. I mean,
Rodney King.
it was there. But OJ was a reaction to Rodney King.
I came in 1995. I remember they shut this. They should have never done this.
Yeah.
In looking, I mean, I couldn't say nothing. I was 14, but they had stopped everything and they brought TVs in the room to read the verdict. I don't know why they did that.
I remember that too.
It was so dumb.
Yeah.
Because I look back on it, I'm like, why would you hype everybody up?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they actually watched the verdict, and it was like the room segregated.
Yeah.
And I had no idea because I'm not
You're
from
like,
here.
where do I belong?
Listen, I had no idea what was going on. but it was just this extreme tension. So I think we have social media, which heightens
Yeah,
it.
but I also think the media leans into it
Oh,
now.
I mean,
They
like
definitely
ratings,
do.
it
man.
wasn't so like it wasn't.
I know. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I feel like people weren't caught up into it like how they are.
Yeah,
You know,
like
today.
it was there. It existed. Of course, racism existed. I experienced it, but I'm saying like, and like the shows we would watch, Family Matters, Fresh Prince, they would do an episode where
They would address it,
you know,
yeah.
Carlton and Will get arrested by some racist cops. Like that always happens in those shows, but it wasn't like every day on the news. All they're talking about is, you know, and all the stories that they're bringing up is just to, you know, heighten the tension in race relations. That I feel like things that are happening nowadays, like they're purposely doing this. You know, even when you look at that whole incident that happened with the white lady Shiloh Hendrix, and did you guys hear about that? You didn't see anything about that?
No.
The lady that just raised like $700,000 on Give Send Go after she called a little boy the N-word.
No.
You didn't hear about that?
No.
Oh my goodness, this is like everywhere. So, this lady, I'll just go to that. I was gonna go to that in a little bit, but we'll go to that now. So this lady named Shiloh Hendrix, and this is in Rochester, Minnesota. She was at the park with her kids, and some Somalian dude just starts filming her, and let's watch the clip, and we'll discuss. Mom, can you take that down? Thanks. Hold on, let me unmute. Okay. Trigger warning. This is a lot of foul language.
You call him a nigger, the child?
The fuck you talking
Did you
about?
call the child the nigger word?
None of your fucking business.
It is my business. You call him a nigger? Okay, why don't you have the balls to say it right now again?
Fuck you, nigger.
Okay.
Nigger.
All right, that's what you say.
You don't go digging through people's shit, you dumb fuck.
Nobody dig into your shit.
A little fucking kid just did, you dumb
That
idiot.
little kid, you call him a nigger? The little child?
What if he acts like one, he's gonna
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child, 5-year-old, a nigger, the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
You know, that's a hate speech. And you can be recorded for that.
I don't give a shit.
Huh.
Fuck off.
Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you.
So
Man, she had a really dirty mouth.
this happened a couple days ago, and within like 3 days or so, she put up a Give Send Go saying like, you know, that once this video went viral, you know, she's getting death threats, she's gonna have to move, her family's in danger, and she's asking for $1 million. She's raised $700,000.
She gonna
Like
get
she's a victim.
What the heck?
She gonna get it.
Yeah, she's raised $700,000 so far on her Give Send Go over that, and a lot of people are giving as a reaction to the Carmelo Anthony thing.
thing.
Because they're like, well, they're gonna raise money, because how much didn't they raise like $500,000 for him, $500,000 for this boy who stabbed a white boy at a track meet, you know? So that's what I'm talking about, the racial tension. So like as a reaction to black people saying, well, we're gonna raise money for him, we don't care if he stabbed a white boy because he's one of ours and we got to protect him. So now they're saying, okay, well, we're going to protect her and we're going to raise money for her. Because if you look at the comments, remember when that case went down, I showed it on here and I showed the comments people were writing in the Carmelo Anthony money raiser thing. And it was all like anti-white stuff. Like, I'm doing this as a FU to white people, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So they were doing the same thing in her comments. Like, you know, it's just people saying the N-word in the comments, you know.
Oh, that's
Come on.
And the guy who runs Give Send Go is a Christian. So he was on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan like kind of grilled him, like, how are you allowing this? And he's like, you know, it's a free speech platform. But he ended up disabling the comments on both of those Give Send Goes because it was just getting out of control.
But for her to raise 700,000,
and this is part of what I want to talk about as well, is because there's a lot of things about this story that are kind of weird and don't really add up. Like, people were digging into the story a little bit, and she's had multiple black boyfriends in the past, and the guy, like, they're saying like they think she knows the guy who was filming it, and
it's a little setup.
He's been arrested for sexual assault on a minor. He's a Somalian immigrant who is like a sex offender. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you remember that case of those people that staged that whole thing to raise a bunch of money? They were going to split it, and then people found out about it. So some people are like claiming that this seems like that type of vibe, and something is off about it. Just like how she was acting, and his, like, why is this man? If that's apparently that's not his child. He's just a random guy that was at the park filming a sex offender at a park that's filming children. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, where's your kid?
Yeah.
And then when you look at like the donations in her thing, the ones that sparked it off, $10,000 donations from anonymous, $2,000 from anonymous people, and like, it's just fishy. Because there's an incentive for people to keep that tension there and use these type of stories to create the racial divide that's going on in this country.
I mean, you wouldn't think about it, right? If you concocted a plan, and you're like, we're gonna go to this park. I'm gonna say this to you. I'm not gonna film any of the lead up.
Right.
I'm just gonna film,
because there's no film of her
nothing
talking
of that.
to the boy.
Nothing of that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna catch you doing this. You're gonna react to me, and then you're gonna grab your kid. And you're gonna be walking away, and I'm gonna follow you. It has undertones of scripting. Of scripted. You know what I mean?
It definitely, there's a lot of weird things that don't add up, but it's definitely.
She even did the little tongue thing.
Yeah. Like, it was so over the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was so.
Why was she so mad?
Yeah.
Yo, take your kid and leave.
Yeah. Like,
I don't.
Yeah, I think some. I mean, I didn't see the whole thing. I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
My whole thing is like, I'm trying to stay off of like. I don't know. I just feel like lately I'm like, I don't really want to be bothered by this stuff. It's like too much. You know what I mean?
It's all these debates about race and you see what it's causing.
And people can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Like, listen, all you got to do is just feed people what they want.
Yep.
You know.
Can we bring our character back, please?
But that's the problem, is that people are looking, like you said, people are looking to feed their biases already. So anytime a story comes out that validates how they feel about white people or how they feel about black people, it's going to go viral because people want to jump all over it and be like, see?
That's why it says, man, a fool and his money is soon parted, man.
Yep.
Because you could easily, there was one that happened in Philly a couple years ago, not racial, but it was a boyfriend, girlfriend who, some guy was homeless and he was delivering gas to her. And
that's the one I'm talking about.
That's the one you're talking about? Right.
They faked the whole thing.
They faked the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then he didn't
and they raised all this money.
Yeah.
But then once they found out about it, then they got sued.
Well, the boyfriend and girlfriend didn't want to split it with him.
And he told on them. Yeah. So, and think about it. Like, who knows if that's going to go down here? Like, if someone feels slighted with that 700,000, they're trying to raise $1 million. First of all, even that number. It's like, if you really felt like you were in danger, why would you put the goal immediately at $1 million?
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like, that's kind of excessive.
You just gotta move and have enough money to, for a couple months.
Yeah.
I need $1 million.
Okay.
Let's raise this money for this victim.
Well, people are going to take advantage of foolish. This is really the whole topic on race and all stuff. Like, it's really stupid.
Yeah.
It's really it's foolish. You know, there's the human race. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
As there's just variation.
Right.
But because people are so caught up in it, you can easily trick them into believing that there is a side. You know what I mean? And
of course,
I
mean, the problem is people don't want to be honest about the fact that there's cultural differences between different groups of people. Yeah. We have in-group preference that we all,
that's what it is.
We all want to protect our own, this is a normal behavioral pattern, but because of the history of race in this country,
right,
we allow it to be this
around the world. Not just this country.
But this country in particular
right.
has like it just has this like long history of oppression, Jim Crow, slavery,
Right.
The KKK. Like,
But
there wasn't no KKK in other countries.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But there's still slavery in other countries.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not the same as it's not the same when you look into it as what was done under, the Atlantic slave trade.
Which is kind of unfair if you really think about imperialism and colonialism, because the British did far more worse things.
Yeah.
The Romans and all these other societies. But I think America has, we set the cultural tone.
Yeah.
For the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you literally, everything from the last 200 years, I would say, but specifically the last 80 years has been America setting the tone for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We are an empire, a cultural empire. And I think that the rest of the world can essentially kind of hide from their past too. Brazil was one of the worst places.
Yeah.
But Brazil is viewed as being this melting pot. But there is acceptable apartheid in Brazil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's
Brazil had the most slaves.
the most slaves out of everybody.
Yeah.
Out of everyone in the Western Hemisphere, Brazil had, I think they were the last to end it too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the
But-
Portuguese were known to be the most ruthless when they were.
But the Portuguese
Traveling.
did something different than the British, which was the Protestants and the Anglos. They openly had black concubines,
Yeah,
while
right.
the British pretended not to do it, but they did it anyway.
Right.
But the Portuguese and the Spanish were like, yeah, we enjoy our time with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think the sad part about it is this is just the fallen nature of man. It's the wickedness in our heart. Because we all of us, no matter what skin tone you are, we all have conflict within our own family group.
Yeah.
Why would we not have conflict with strangers?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not hard to understand.
Absolutely.
That there's always these, like you said, intergroup preference, but there's intergroup conflicts.
Yeah.
There's this idea that certain parts of the world were just conflict ridden. Like, what do you think they were doing in Europe?
Yeah.
Singing? They were fighting each other.
Yeah.
They were,
And people have been conquering each other.
The French were, the French
Since the
hated
beginning.
the Belgians. The Belgians hated the,
How about the Scottish, the Irish, and the English?
they were warring against
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Mel
They,
Brooks,
they still
Mel,
don't like
Still.
each other.
Mel Gibson
Still.
made a whole
Yeah.
movie about it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I
My
do
favorite
appreciate about
movie, by the way.
Braveheart. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like I think we see certain things, and that could be attributed to our educational system too. How we were indoctrinated with certain ideas, not to mention religion.
Yeah.
Religion has a big part of that too. And I think that because of that, because we really aren't taught true history and the fallen nature of man, that's just part of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Can I
And
say something?
Yes, Mom.
I sent you a text message, Jamie.
Okay.
Look at it.
Well, what is it?
I was upset.
What is it?
My brother invited his friend. He was in New York to pick up my cousins at the Bronx to see my mom at the viewing. And look what he put on her casket.
A Puerto Rican flag?
I was pissed off.
Why were you mad about that?
Because it was not about you know what I mean? It's like, to me that was like ghetto. Like, put this Puerto Rican flag. Like, you know what I mean? My mom.
I mean, Puerto Ricans are notoriously
But
very
I-
proud of their
But
heritage.
my mom is not. She didn't say.
Your mom never like
She
repped
never
Puerto
claimed
Rico
No,
like that.
she
Yeah.
has- she's-
She
her
lived there.
father-
She lived there for
but Jamie, her father was from Spain.
yeah.
She's Puerto Rican because she was born.
So
in
she
Puerto
no
Rico.
black.
No. What I'm saying is that when I saw
Papi, I know black.
but
know
when I saw the Puerto Rican
No
flag, I
black
was
puppy.
like, that is so ghetto. I'm sorry. That's what I felt when I saw it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess that has something to do with what we're talking about here. But
Well, that's why I sent you that, because I was like, how do you just put that? You don't ask, and you just put it up there. It's
Yeah.
my mother. It's not
people
your
are
mother.
proud. People want to be proud. We naturally all want to be proud of
our heritage, our
heritage
culture.
and-
That's normal though.
It's yeah.
But
It-
that's
and-
not even her son. He's just somebody we know.
yeah.
And he went and put a flag on her.
Oh, it wasn't Henry that did it.
No,
His friend.
it's just a friend.
He
that
thought he
went-
probably thought he was doing something good, and misread the room.
Did you tell him that?
She
I
wasn't there.
You weren't there?
I went to the viewing in Florida, and then this is in New York.
Yeah. Well, this has become a huge debate. Everyone's talking about it,
Right.
of course. So Pierce,
And
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and think about it. Whenever you see, there's just as much as people are fueled up with hate and anger, there's also opportunistic people who are like, listen, let's take advantage of this.
This is going to be ratings.
You know, no, not just ratings. I'm talking about people who are like, hey, these idiots will give money because they're hateful.
Yeah.
Let's take advantage of this stupidity. You know what I mean?
And people are people are tired of. I think there is a large, and it's growing, sect of like white Americans that are just tired of constantly being told that they're racist, that they, you know, any black people can say whatever they want. It's not racism, but you can't say anything. You know, like they're tired of it. So they're like, no, I'm going to support this because.
And what's crazy about that though is that when you really think about how they feel, it's like that idea of them feeling like they don't have it was done to black people, and it's now their turn,
right? But
I always go, who is pushing it?
Yeah,
who is pushing this?
And that's what I'm getting at, because when you look at those donations, somebody, who has $10,000?
I don't think so.
Who has $10,000 to just give to this random lady? That's got to be Jake joining in. Yeah, so. Who's got $10,000 to just donate on Give Send Go?
I don't think so.
To some random lady who's called a little child the N-word. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, okay, there's someone, because what would stop people like what would stop a Chinese, you know, spy or anybody that wants to sow discord in the country to just be like, all right, let me donate to this. Let me, you know, we have the funding. Let's
fuel this.
Yeah, fuel this. Or any group that wants to destabilize the country. George Soros, you know what I mean? Could donate to that to continue.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point, because all you would have to do is pay attention to the flames and fan the flames. Like, as a spark, but let's fan that. Let's get people riled up, and let's, like you said, like, who's sitting around in this economy like, honey? Yeah, there's some guys over here. Do you mind if I give $10,000 to this cause? It's a good one.
Right. But you're gonna get the mass amounts of like $10, $5 donations.
You're right. That's a great point.
Because they see, once people see something snowballing, now they want to jump on board.
Right.
So if you can get a bunch of big
and you
donations,
set the number high.
Yes, exactly. So I'm very wary of that conversation.
No, that's a good point.
I do want to show this real quick before we bring Jake in. Because, like I was saying, Piers Morgan did a panel about it yesterday. He brings on Myron Gaines, Mark Lamont Hill, the girl that got in trouble for saying that all of her friends date broke ass niggas. You remember that white girl that said that and it went viral?
I don't remember her.
No.
And then some other girl, white girl, was on there, and
excellent panel.
It was just chaos, bro. So of course, you know, Myron was given the perspective of like, this is pushback from the Carmelo Anthony thing. You know, black people don't like being held accountable, and they just don't. They want to be able to say whatever they want, but don't want white people to be able to say whatever they want. It's about free speech. So they were having, and Mark Lamont Hill, of course, was like, those two situations aren't the same, because Carmelo Anthony is fighting for his defense because he's claiming self-defense. This lady admitted to calling this child the N-word. So how can you equate the two situations? But anyway, this is where it kind of went kind of crazy, where Piers Morgan was going back and forth with the girl. And watch Mark Lamont Hill's reaction to this.
And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you will
well, go
not
on then,
have
say it. Say
you
the
will
M-
not have
Go on,
free
say
speech.
go on. Say the M word. Go on.
No.
hang on.
Don't invite. No. I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here. You and one Uncle Tom on the left here.
They called him Uncle Tom.
They always mess that up, by the way.
They do.
They always,
I know, because if you read the book, Uncle Tom's the hero.
Sambo. Uncle Tom
Sambo
is the hero.
is
they never get that right.
They always get that right.
Never get it right.
But the crazy part to me was the fact that He then calls himself a nigga. He said, "You're not. Don't have her say I'm the only nigga up here." Like he said,
it's really offensive to me.
Only I can call myself.
So it's ridiculous. That's
Bro,
why,
he went nuts.
But don't you think that this is theater though? Don't you think he's...
I think he really
believes
spazzed
himself.
out. Like I think he really was like, I can't allow him to have this white girl.
I think Pierce was trying to set her up.
Oh, he was.
He was trying to say he's so dumb he can't even see it.
Yeah, no, Pierce was trying to set her up, but Mark Lamont Hill was thinking about, well, you don't think he's gonna hear it from the black females in his life or anyone, all his followers? How did you let her get away with that? You know what I mean?
Who's the white girl?
She's just some TikTok girl that I was saying. Like she was doing a TikTok and she said something about like all of my friends are dating broke ass niggas, and it went viral because she just openly said it on TikTok, you know. And so that's
probably why he's mad, because
he's still wearing hasn't he been demonetized? Why is he still wearing the Fresh and Fit shirt?
Bro, he's still promoting it, man. He's got other pages now. Apparently, he does
he's
like other commentary. The
Hebrews.
Absolutely.
He's going after the Hebrews. He's not going to be there too long.
You know what's funny is Mark Lamont Hill says that if like in the longer clip. Matter of fact, I think he says it after this. Let's see.
And to ask her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Pierce. I understand what you're trying to do. But we already know she's racist. And I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you.
Racial harm to me. But that's the other thing is like
victim.
We have to be honest about like, when are we going to stop allowing this word to be so harmful? Like, it's only harmful because we allow it to be harmful.
Yeah.
Eventually, we have to say, like, we don't care.
Yeah.
Like, taking the power away is not calling each other in.
No.
It's saying, yo, that word don't bother me.
Yeah.
That's taking the power away from it.
If you give it power, it has power.
Yeah.
Right.
It allows him to go that crazy just by the thought of her possibly saying it in front of him. But you see what he brought up. You would never ask a Jewish person.
And he wouldn't.
He wouldn't.
He wouldn't do it.
That's absolutely true.
He does have a point there.
Right. Would he let
Pierce
Myron
is always defending,
be on a
Israel.
panel with Rabbi Shmuley
Yeah.
and say a Jewish epithet? He would never invite that.
I think Pierce was actually trying to set the girl up more, and he missed it.
Yeah.
He saw an opportunity to grandstand. He's like, I'm gonna take this.
I think so too. All right, you guys continue discussing now. I'm gonna try to bring Jake in.
So much emotion, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
You think it's all a show, though?
I think it's a show. I think it brings ratings. I think they know who to bring. Myron, the girl from TikTok.
Well, Pierce definitely is causing conflict, but I really
he's a fire starter.
But I do believe dude really, in
the moment,
emotional.
Yeah. He's emotional, but it's like Jamie was saying. I think it's more his core audience would have questioned him, like, I can't believe you let that happen. So he viewed it as a moment to grandstand and kind of show off a little bit. But at the same time, it's like the only way to stop this is to stop giving the word power and stop having these stupid conversations. You're not going to get anywhere with this.
Yeah, you're
not going to. It is what it is.
But he's so upset though. Like it's the truth though. Like you look at black people, you see it all on social media. Even in real life, they always using the the word cracker all the time. That's a slur against white people.
Yeah, it became okay,
but it's normalized. Yeah, and it's been acceptable in society.
Right, and that's the curse of the past in this country, where there was a time when black people were treated so terrible that now it's revenge day. That's basically what it comes down to. It's like we get to say that's the payoff. I think black people feel like they got was they're able to castigate white people at will.
Yeah,
I think that's part of what what it
because
is.
they went through,
Miss
you
you
know,
here.
years and years of slavery. Now we can just
Yeah, well,
That gives me the right to.
that gives me. It's like it's.
yeah.
I feel like that was their payoff. There's no reparations or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like now I get to say, and it's like if you're fat and black, you get to say, you get to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because everybody's afraid of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because no one wants to be labeled that. Because
no one wants to be a racist.
no one wants to be a racist, and I think that, you know, they know that. But I do feel like this brings in so much ratings because people secretly, like you said, are fed up with it, and they're just fed up with the conversation. They just don't want to deal with it no more.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, one more thing about this black and white topic. Someone was mentioning. I saw this funny video about it. So let's bring up something that you guys may have never thought about before.
we think about everything, Jamie.
When you think about, well, let's see. Jake, you can chime in on this too. Welcome, Jake, to the show. By the way,
up, bro?
everybody, he's in his basement. I see.
Yeah,
right now.
lovely basement there.
Can you are you okay? You can hear us. Okay, good. So, when you think of white guy hobbies, right? You think of white guy extracurricular activities, like things that they do, white families. What do you think of?
Golf,
hiking, hunting,
skiing.
Hiking,
Yeah,
hunting,
skiing,
something outdoor,
Keep it,
camping.
This is Family Feud. Keep it
fishing,
going.
all
Yep.
terrain,
Yep, fishing, camping, hunting,
Yep.
all terrain,
Golfing.
outdoor
golfing.
activities,
Yes, outdoor activities.
berry picking.
Yeah, things like that. right. And then what do we hear from our community when people are asked like, "Oh, do you want to go do those things?"
I ain't doing that.
That's white people
That's
stuff.
white people stuff.
Yeah, that's white people stuff. So yeah, James is like, "Well, I like doing that stuff." That's why we call you confusing. Let's watch this dude. This is just a funny reaction. This is just a
this dude
funny
looks like me.
a
Oh my
funny
God.
take on what we were just talking about. Check this out.
For today is everything that Caucasians do as a hobby is prepper based. They run 20 miles a day. They camp, they hike, they canoe, all this stuff they do for fun. They go to the GUN range right after the kids get out of school.
Why can't he say
Skiing,
gun?
urban exploration, kayaking. All that has something to do with surviving beyond the means of the government. Once again, everything they do is war-based. But what they do is they turn it into a game. Now you might be thinking, now these are just regular Caucasian activities. But then I would ask you, why ain't none of that SHIT fun? Now ask yourselves, should we incorporate prepping into our fun time?
What do you guys think? Are white people prepping
No,
constantly for
no.
the apocalypse with their activities? You don't think so?
I mean, there is doomsday prepper dudes, and typically there are, but I don't think it's white people are like, all right, guys, we got to prep for war here. Nah, I think
But maybe they're just naturally prone to want to do activities that prepare them for, if the government collapses.
This is nonsense. It's nonsense.
I can
because
tell.
there's something about nature, hiking. There's a feeling that you're in touch with God. Essentially, like when you're sleeping under the stars or taking this hike, man. There's this. I can't explain the feeling, but it feels exhilarating. You know.
I mean, I think it's culture. Because I grew up in a place where I did all those things.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepping for war.
Yeah.
I just if you grow up around it, you're used to it. But I could tell there's difference. Just as there Caucasians or people who grew up in, well, actually I wouldn't say Caucasian. Just as there are people who grew up in an urban city kind of environment.
Yeah.
This is strange to them.
Yes.
And one of the things that people don't, especially I could tell inner city black people, they frown on it because they've never done it. Part of it is also they don't have the money to do it, so they just look down on it. It's Deion Sanders just said this. He said there used to be a lot of black people playing baseball, but they don't because it's expensive.
Yeah.
So they just kind of, and girls are not there. You know what I mean? So the motivation is girls, and it's expensive. And I think outdoor activities like canoes, when people go see the price of canoe, they're like,
how is baseball expensive?
Well, I didn't say. I mean, he said that.
Wait. No. Baseball is more expensive than basketball because
football.
But honestly, football is not as expensive.
Football's not as expensive
because most of
you gotta buy your pads. And
no,
stuff?
the pads are all provided.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the team. Every team that I play for, the team always provide the pads and the helmet and everything else.
Yeah.
All you got to do is get your cleats.
Right.
But baseball, most kids have to get a bat, a ball, a glove. You have to get a glove. Gloves are expensive.
Well, I would say hockey is more expensive.
Both. But what he was asking was like there's never a time when there was overwhelmingly black guys in hockey.
Yeah.
But baseball, there was the Negro leagues.
Yeah.
Right. But I think one of the things is this: when you have people that grew up in an environment, the concrete jungle, this is outreach for them.
Plus, there's nowhere to play baseball in the hood.
Right.
There's nowhere,
and there's nowhere to go camping in the hood.
Right. And I agree with you. I think that
there are places to play. What hood are y'all talking about? Because if you think about Camden, there's plenty of baseball fields that I pass by.
No, and there is, but he was pointing out that it's expensive.
Not
but
in Philly.
Hold on, because you know who's playing, and they are in Philly, and you know who's playing them? Dominicans. Puerto Ricans. There's so many Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. That's what I'm saying. Like,
but there hasn't always been access to baseball fields in the hood. Like they've built that stuff up more. So
it's definitely not as accessible as basketball. But
even,
I'm just saying,
bro, even us growing up, we grew up playing baseball. Me and you, we were on teams since we were 5 and 6 years old. Right? Where did we play baseball?
On tennis courts.
In a tennis court.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
because even to play on a field with enough players, like it's not realistic. You could easily go to a basketball court with three of your friends.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying is that because I'm around, like, I see Dominicans playing, I see Puerto Ricans playing, like,
they
black play.
Culturally, that's more their thing, though. I think with what we're saying, like in the black community, it they moved away from it because it wasn't as easy to get your boys to go start a baseball.
And then the girl thing,
girls is huge.
That's a big part.
Hold up, we kind of like went sidetracked though. I know white people from Philly who love to go hiking still. They're not in the woods or anything like that. So it's just.
But no, I was gonna go somewhere with this. Which is what tying to what Jimmy played earlier. Aside from accessibility and just not being around that, there's a fear of going out to the woods for a lot of inner city blacks. They're afraid of it.
Yeah,
they're afraid of it. A lot of black people
don't like bugs.
They don't like bugs, and what? Stereotype. They don't know
swim.
how to swim.
They don't swim.
I was gonna say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Swimming.
Snakes. Yeah. Think about it. Right? Think about it.
Did y'all see that video of that woman who went to Africa and was regretting it?
I saw that. I
She was like, all these bugs, all these lizards.
That was hilarious.
No electricity, no hot water.
Now, I know that because, like I said, like me growing up in another culture, I did all those things, and that was second nature to me. So seeing a snake, I don't freak out the way a lot of black people freak out when they see a snake.
Right.
I don't like snakes either, bro.
But I don't. But what I'm saying is like,
yeah,
bro,
but you didn't grow up like he did either.
Right. I grew up in the jungles, man.
I grew up more in the hood.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's beauty in nature that I think we miss. We miss because our environment. This goes back to what we talk about all the time. It's really not race, it's culture.
Yes.
It's your culture. Race is placed upon us because that's the first thing we see, but it's culture. It's culture.
Yeah.
What you're
if you think about it.
No, let me make this point while it's in my head. Actually, like when I moved from South Philly to South Jersey, I made friends with Steve and his brothers.
Cat Steve?
Cat Steve.
Oh, man.
So they would go camping every single year. That was the thing that they did.
Yeah.
And, I got to experience that part. Whereas, like, we went fishing, we went on a boat, we went swimming, slept in a tent. And there's that feeling I was talking about. It's I was exposed to that.
Right.
If I would have stayed in Philly, I probably wouldn't.
You'd never been exposed.
And you would look down on that.
Yeah.
After a while, you'd be like, "That's."
I would have been
corny.
saying the same thing.
You said that's white people stuff.
White people stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we grew up. Our black family wasn't necessarily from the city, so
yeah.
You guys
They
are
were
black?
Southern.
It was
because I do
it
know
wasn't-
Southern black people that don't
Yeah.
have a problem with this.
Yeah.
You guys are black?
yeah. So like my grandfather, well, my grandmom's house, but my grandfather's house, like we're doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah,
we would catch snakes.
They
We
had
would catch
dogs out
snakes.
there.
Right. They had pigs and stuff
They had
like that.
pigs. They
Yeah.
had dogs. We would be out in the woods. Yeah, catching snakes, catching frogs.
They brought is it North or South Carolina?
North Carolina.
They brought North Carolina culture to Glassboro.
Yeah.
They just brought it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, and
So-
that,
we would
Go ahead, Jake.
we would get into snakes, and I remember like when the spring hit and the smell of honeysuckles.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
blackberries on the blackberry
mulberry
bushes.
tree.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Or mulberry tree, yeah,
Yeah.
like that stuff brings you back to like that's nature, and I think that's kind of what even what Simone's talking about. It's that connection where me and Jamie, we would go on that dirt road, and we'd always run into like the black snakes, like
Yeah.
a bunch of that stuff.
You guys
Like,
remember
we did
the
it all
movie-
the time.
You guys remember the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
In that scene where the two the Na'vi found each other, the male and the female, and the forest lit up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, in Trinidad during the full moon, it's not luminescent like that. Of course, it's dramatized, but I'm telling you, when we used to go hunting at night, my dad and my cousins, the forest was beautiful. The smell of there's a flower. It's called Lady of the Night. This flower is a orchid, and it opens up only at nighttime on the full moon, and it permeates the whole air. You could smell it, and all the creatures come out to get the nectar for that.
Wow.
And you could see everything. I'm telling you, the forest is so bright. Everything is amazing. And it's really witnessing the magnificent creation that God made.
Yeah.
But if you've never seen that,
And that's what I think, like, that this clip, that's why I wanted to play it, because he's acting like, black people don't know about any of these things. But I think, like you said, it's the ones that grow up in the urban
it's your culture,
environments.
and they were pushed in that environment because I went back. I asked a question to some of my black friends, and really, it's really when you think about it, it's the Great Migration to the north when the industrial age began with the motor cars. This is when the South was severely segregated. There was lots of problems down there, right? Lots of lynching. You told me a story about your father's land being. That's why they had to come to the north.
My great-grandfather.
Your great-grandfather.
Yeah.
So when they came to the city, they lose this thing, and we see that now. We see evidence of that with this the fatherless homes, where you have young boys that are not being ushered into manhood. In your time, you guys would have to kill pigs.
Yeah.
It would be nothing to kill one and get the blood out, pull the guts out. There's grown men now that would not do that.
Yeah.
It'd be gross to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we've essentially become very domesticated. And we always said this, it's not race, it's culture.
Yeah.
Race is the focus because that's what we see, but it's really culture. And Killer Mike also, you guys remember Killer Mike, right?
Yeah.
The rapper?
Yeah.
When Trump.
You know what? It's a funny story. He actually commented on that Taco Bell video.
He did?
Yeah, he did.
All right. So when Trump first won the first presidency, there was a debate how we gonna take back the country, and there was this progressive movement amongst liberal blacks where it was like we got to fight back, and he got up, and he's Southern, he's from Atlanta, and he asked the room, he said, how many of y'all here know how to hunt? Okay, put your hands down. How many here know how to farm? Put your hands down. How many people know how to fish? Put your hands down. He's like, none of y'all are ready for no revolution. Y'all can't feed yourself.
Right.
You can't fish. You can't hunt. You can't do nothing. You're just talking.
So that's what this guy's talking about.
That's all
He's
it
like,
is.
He's like, black. We need to start doing some of these white activities.
Yeah.
But I think even what he's saying, and this is like the fallacy that so many do, like he's adding the intention behind why they're doing what they're doing.
Right,
And
right, yeah. Come on, man.
Especially when you when you're always looking at like, why are these white people doing this? they're
right. You don't know what. Nah,
yeah.
He's reaching. He's reaching. You can't know.
But that's what so many people do when they don't want to like somebody or they don't want to like her. That's why, again, it's culture, and even that, like it's just remnants. A lot of times, it's remnants of the past.
Yeah.
Right. Because some people like, oh, let's go hunting, but that's just a remnant of what people had to do. But now people do it for fun.
Right.
You know what
I mean? And it does relax you. It does.
Yeah. Well, for men, because men inherently, like, we're hunters. You know, that's what we do.
Right. And I think there is something that connects you to the land, the nature, when you see a life being taken for your consumption. It does. Think about it, right? If you were raised thinking that turkey just is in a package in a store and you don't want it, you throw it away, versus you're able to see, hey, I raised this thing from a chick and I'm not going to waste it.
Yeah.
Or berries or food. If we remove that connection from our food source, from nature, we won't have no value in it. You know, I was afraid of snakes too, but my dad used to tell me that's life. Why it's not doing anything to you, just let it go.
Yeah,
it really wants to run away from you. You know, you're afraid of it because for whatever reason you attach yourself, but now you want to kill the thing. Just let it go. And I think when you remove that connection from growing your food, doing all those kind of things, you're not gonna have an understanding that we need to preserve this. You're just gonna think it's something to be wasted. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right, so let's move on.
He's like, let me get to this video.
What video?
Oh, I thought you had something to play.
No. I already played it. No, I want to get to the next topic. So,
all right, Uncle Denny finally he said kayaking down some good rapids is a thrill.
Are you sure you're not prepping for war? I think he's prepping for war, Uncle Danny.
And Courtney said, I love those activities.
Yeah, exactly.
And she grew up in Philly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Come on,
but you're out on the farm now. You've been countrified.
She went to agriculture high school.
You've been countrified. Yep.
Yeah, those things are fun.
All right. So next topic I want to get to is the movie Sinners. Okay. So there's been a lot of uproar in the Christian community over the overt connection to hoodoo culture in the black community and like the seduction of black culture into inviting that type of concept back into our lives. As far as like, I've seen a lot of videos of people saying like, this is our heritage, and there was a lot of undertones in the movie about like, showing how the Christian faith is more of the white man's religion. So you're starting to see that conversation be had in the black community. I definitely think Sinners was touching on that topic a lot. But Jake wanted to go through some of that stuff that you had. What did you want to go over first, Jake? Showing when we with the stuff you sent me.
Can't hear him.
I can't hear him.
Yeah, you're muted, I think.
Sorry, I forgot. I guess you can show Unmi. Is that her name? Unmi's video first. The girl who played Annie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the black girl that was talking about hoodoo.
Yeah.
Is it hoodoo or voodoo?
Well, they call it hoodoo in the South. They called it hoodoo in like New Orleans.
Right.
Like in the.
I meant to watch some.
We had a hoodoo.
Meant to watch some. Do some homework on it.
Yeah.
I have no idea. All I know is what I've seen.
What you seen?
That I've seen.
Okay. Well, it's all right. We'll talk about it. You can chime in.
Hoodoo consultant, and she helped me
start over.
We had a hoodoo consultant, and she helped me create a spell for the mojo bag. Another moment in the film, which I don't know if it's still in there. There was another moment in the film where she helped me kind of figure out what I would say in this moment, and the prayer, the conjuring. Yeah. But I didn't look into other people's spells and
or like things from the past, maybe like things like ancestors.
from West Africa have traditionally done or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, learning about Ifa and the traditions, the offerings of fruit to the ocean, and like learning about those things, yes, and doing that research and looking into it. I went to the House of Hoodoo a lot. I saw, I got readings. I got the candles and the oils and the.
Does it scare you at all though?
No, because it's a healing, it's a beautiful practice. What we've been told in Western media is that it's scary. Hoodoo is a beautiful practice, but just like anything, like you can pray for good, you can pray for bad. You can be good, you can be bad. It's not it's the person, it's the practice, it's the belief. It's really it's a beautiful practice. And then doing the research, like seeing how the connectedness between Hoodoo and Ifa, the traditional Yoruba religion, it just opened up so much. I didn't know that I would find a piece of myself in her. I would find my ancestry within her, and conversations with my father. I now have about traditional medicines. He's an old Yoruba man. He's in his 90s, and so now I'm like learning stuff that I didn't know before. I feel like it's always the case. It should be the case that the God of your childhood shouldn't be the God of your adulthood. Like you should grow and learn and question and then also know that you know nothing and that there is something so much bigger. And I found more questions with Annie. I found more wonder with Annie. I found more inspiration with Annie. And so she's been an integral part of my growth and connectedness to my motherland, my mother tongue, my ancestry, and my hopes for the future.
Yeah. So you can see how the idea of connecting with our roots as, the products of African slaves that were brought here. And you see this all over the West, as far as like wherever slaves were, there are remnants of the this religion. It comes from what's the religion it comes from, Jake, originally? What's it called? What's the religion it comes from originally?
Ifa.
Ifa, yeah.
The one she's talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
Yoruba.
That's what I'm saying. Yoruba. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Yoruba.
Yoruba is the tribe.
Okay, so the
Yoruba is the religion.
Okay, got you. Well, I know that a lot of these Western versions that we know, like you were saying voodoo, Santeria, which is a different version. Santeria is one that
mixture of Catholicism.
Spanish places do that. The Dominicans, Puerto Ricans do that. Mexicans, and then you guys have obia in Trinidad. A lot of the islands have obia, which is like a mixture of Catholicism from the slave trade and mixed with the Yoruba cultural stuff that they did.
Brazil has their own.
Yeah, and look at
it's called Yamanja or something like that.
Yeah, right. But you know what's interesting, and I was thinking about this too. Where do all the carnivals exist?
In the Caribbean.
In these areas.
Brazil, the Caribbean,
Louisiana.
New Orleans has Mardi Gras, which is a version of the carnival. And it all happens around...
That's the connection to Catholicism also.
Right.
Yeah, and that goes back to, like Jake was saying here, when the Catholicism, when they used to give them a break to go kind of... party and have a good time before Lent. Yeah.
Right. So it's essentially the idea of like getting it all out of your system before you give everything up for Lent. But
which literally makes no sense.
Yeah, it does make no sense.
Well, that's from the Roman Catholics, though,
Yeah. But
and they're not really Christians.
It's not really from the Roman Catholics because those traditions came up through all the black communities. You know what I mean? So because when you look at the dress that they wear, when you look at all of the costumes that they wear.
No, I'm saying they allowed them to do it.
Right.
Be like, go ahead and do that.
Right. So they would let them practice.
Well, no, Jamie, because they have that it's in Spain. It's in France. Not as much now.
Netherlands have it too.
It's in Portugal,
Right. But I'm talking about the way they do it in those cultures is.
Yeah, they dress up to their.
No, I'm saying, but the way they do it is based on their traditional African roots. When you look at what they do and what they like, when you look at the Mardi Gras dress, when you look at all that stuff is based off of
It's a mixture.
It's
I
a
would say.
mixture. Yeah, it's a mixture. Mixing in their hoodoo culture in with the celebration of getting ready for Lent. You know,
and I think every culture does that, because you look at Druidism and the celebration of Halloween, Hallows Eve. It's all these things come from pagan worship,
right?
You know what I mean? It's just worshiping Mother Earth and the trees and the this. It comes from something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And like me and Jake were talking about this, I think last week, and I was saying like a lot of those traditions do come from a real place of understanding how nature works as a healing element, as you like which roots cause healing for this or what to use for this. Like, but then it also got formed into the witch doctor is the one that you go to get this spell to do this to get you. You know,
there's a big difference between an herbologist and a person who understands herbs and a person who is doing seances.
Yeah, right. And the person. Go ahead.
The reason why there's that connection is because a lot of times the way you get that information was from the spirit realm. So, like, even the connection to the roots, like, you can go back to the Book of Enoch. You know, it was the same.
Gave them,
So this has been.
They gave them knowledge of roots. Yeah.
Right. So it's been going on since before the flood. You know.
Yeah, when they talk about ayahuasca specifically, that ceremony and that whole thing, like ayahuasca is essentially a DMT trip, right? But it's more intense because there's this root so the tea that you drink, the leaf has DMT in it, but our bodies naturally, like there's enzymes in our stomach that naturally absorb that and counteract it, and it doesn't have any effect on you. So they found this one root, and you know how the jungle is. They found this one root that counteracts that enzyme in our stomach to make it so that the leaf could then release that DMT into your system, the hallucinogen. And the chances of them finding that, I remember I was watching a documentary on ayahuasca, and they were saying the chances of them finding that was like almost impossible. Yep. So that lets you know that there had to be some outside knowledge
from the jungle.
Right.
That's a great point that Jake made there, because I think people sometimes miss that. You know, when you study this, we place so much of it under human.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, they're doing this stuff, they're evil, Africa, blah blah. But we don't understand the demonic influence, especially from the fallen angels.
Yeah.
You know, these beings that really taught mankind certain things before their time. I do believe that God put everything here for a reason, but it was supposed to be in due time.
Right.
And I think that these beings did this in rebellion.
Not only in rebellion, they did it because they wanted to be worshipped.
They wanted to be worshipped.
So
but it was not just Africa. It was Europe. It was
everywhere.
Asia. It was
everywhere.
all over the world.
We know if we give you this knowledge, you'll worship us.
You'll
as
worship
gods.
us. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what they did.
Not only that, just like anything, when you have that knowledge, you don't give people. If you're sinister,
because you're going to use to manipulate everything. You can control them.
Right.
So you're going to give just enough so that they have to rely on you.
Yeah.
Right. So there becomes a transactional relationship of reliance where you feel you have to be bound, because how are you going to survive?
Right.
You know, especially like when we go back to, you know, just a couple of centuries ago, where it was a lot harder for people to survive.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to the early 19th century, they had a lot of kids because kids died.
Yeah.
You know, so even early 1900s, a lot of kids were dying.
Right.
So you would rely on, and this is how even Israel got caught up in it, is because like the stories in the Bible, because they would go to the gods. They would go to these other Elohim, these other gods, right?
Yeah.
But they're spiritual beings, right? And they would go to them and offer to them so that they could receive from them, you know, and give transactions. And the relationship with God is different than that. So the God of Israel was different than that. And it takes a lot more trust. So, but what we're seeing here in this movie is not only like you see the actors and the actresses, or even the writer or director, Ryan Coogler, how they're connecting to these things. You know, they're going and looking at this stuff and saying, oh, this is our identity. This is who we are.
There's a seduction there that you see happening.
Yeah, he's done that with his because that's Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the movies that I've seen, it always taps into that. You know, that African, you know, spiritual, worshiping ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah. So, and then the stuff she says, like she says, Ifa, it's a beautiful religion. Well, you know, we were talking about what's fun, and you know, even how fun is subjective, right? But beauty is subjective too, right? So the point of fun, and it's interesting that we talked about that, because I was thinking about that. The point, when we do fun stuff, it's all in preparation. It is prep. It's preparation for responsibility in life. Why do we play sports? In preparation for life. You know what I mean? Like, but if you don't have that point, if you miss that point, then you're gonna miss the point of sports.
How's kicking a soccer ball preparation? No, I'm joking. I understand what you're saying.
I don't want to go into all that, but the point is that what I'm saying is the things that we do, we can receive out of it, right? But we can get caught up in not understanding what's fun, what's beautiful. So we need somebody to shape us, to show us, to point us in the right direction. No, look at this. Focus on this. It's that simple thing. If somebody says, like, we just watched the video, they're doing this because they're prepping for war. Well, they're focusing you in an intentionality. See, that's the purpose. They're focusing you on a purpose. And if you're like, yeah, that's true. Now you've just fallen into that, right?
Yeah.
And this is what happens over and over again. So why would it become beautiful to you? Because when you're trying to tap into who you are, right? And that's the purpose. And God is not God is not going to give you who you are. So he's not your purpose, right?
Right.
It becomes twisted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna so now you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Right.
And yes, stuff becomes beautiful, or things seem fun that actually ain't fun. You know, I say this all the time, like, people think beating people up and jumping people is fun. But it shouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
It's destructive and harmful. You know what I mean?
But you know what's funny about this too, though? Well, not funny, but I get what people are talking about, what she says. But the real story isn't about, I mean, she's talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the story is about the young singer who sells his soul to the devil. Because a lot of Christians will love to make the parallel when it comes to that, but they forget.
Well, I don't want to get to that yet. We're gonna get to that, but I want to stay on this because the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because so many Black people are, like, especially TikTok culture, like, they're falling into the trap of focusing on this one part, focusing on the hoodoo and the voodoo and
the ancestors. But you've been seeing it. Yeah. You've been seeing that idea being trickled into the culture over the last, like, 5 or 6 years, little by little. Like, even with Beyonce's album, with the whole Oshun magic and the, you know, talking about
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter. Those two women that were leading that. Remember that we showed the video of them talking about their ancestors, and they did the whole ritual with the black angel wings and everything. Like, that concept of you know, this is our true culture has been, like, being seeded into the atmosphere for Black people over the last few years. And I think, like, what Jake is trying to say is, like, they're latching onto this. Even some people that were Christians are starting to be like, you know, nah, this is the white man's religion. you know, there's nothing for us here. Like we need to go back to our roots and understand how beautiful our traditions and cultures were. But
yeah. And the one thing she said was the God that we were born with should not be the gods that we grow up or die with. I forget what she said, something like that. I don't know if y'all caught that.
Yeah, I caught that. Yeah.
Your older self.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy, you know. Who says?
Yeah. I mean, I understand the concept of like you grow in your understanding of who God is as you get older, but that doesn't mean it's a different God. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But what do you want to play, Jake?
I just wanted to talk about that, but I sent you a video a couple weeks ago about, maybe it was last week, about like a bunch of people talking about it, but I don't want to go to that.
Okay.
I think we kind of just I just want to leave it there with this thing, and then we can I guess we can go into the Ryan Coogler videos, because now this is going to get into more of what James was saying with the music stuff and why he made the movie. And I think that's because this is his art, right? This is his thing. So why did he make this movie? What was his intentionality behind it? And I think we find that through the stuff that the interviews that I found on it.
Okay, so before we show why he made the movie, I want to talk to you about what did you get from the movie? Because I remember you telling me like, yo, the story was really dope.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
So what did you get from it message wise when you were watching it?
When I watch a movie, I try not to. I wanted something different than original, and I thought it was different because it deals with these two twin brothers who were essentially.
Spoiler alerts, by the way.
Yeah, these two twin brothers who.
Oh, that's why in the pictures there's two.
Yeah, they're twins. Michael B. Jordan plays. He plays a twin of himself.
They're essentially.
Which also ties into. Isha as well, right? He does a whole video talking about how in African culture twins are seen as deities. Because
I don't know anything about that part. I mean, maybe he did.
I'm just saying like it's just weird that he's tying all that in.
Right. So basically these two twin brothers are from the South Mississippi. They went to the North Chicago. And they were working for a gangster. I don't remember some big name.
Al Capone.
Al Capone.
Yeah.
And they got some money and came back and
they stole some money.
Right. Tried to.
They robbed some people.
I mean, they didn't show that part, but
no, they talked about it in the film. Yeah.
But so they came back and they bought a barn.
It was a sawmill.
Yeah, and they bought that from this white dude, and they were like, they're going to open up a club, like what they saw in another place. Yeah. And they went around and found these musicians, and their cousin happens to be the son of a preacher, and he wants to play music.
Right, but without going through the whole plot, I don't want to give away the whole plot. Just like tell me, like what you got from the movie, just the fact that it was like an original story, something different from the typical quote unquote black film. Right.
That's what I got from it. I mean,
it was the first like I have never seen like a black vampire film in that
and it wasn't really. They didn't tell you that it was gonna be like a vampire movie.
Wasn't there a vampire in Brooklyn?
No, but that was like a Dracula movie.
Yeah, and that was more like a comedy. Kind of thing,
That was Eddie Murphy, right?
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and so that's what I got from it, was just an original concept, because I didn't watch any of the interviews. I didn't watch any of that stuff like that.
Right.
They do show her she lost a child and she is practicing
hoodoo,
right? From it, but it's not in the movie like where she's like doing seances and like that. And at the end of it, it's vampires. It's not real. It's not a And a vampire shows up, and basically the vampire is like, you have to let me in.
Yes.
I have to ask for you to let me in, and you have to let me in.
Which is like, that's a typical vampire legend.
That's vampire lore.
Yeah,
vampire lore is from Transylvania.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They have to be invited in.
Right.
Wasn't that in Lost Boys too, I believe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And
it's in a lot of vampire games.
Yeah, he took that lore from there.
Yeah.
And he tied it in, and he said, okay, well, I'm gonna do this. So that's what I.
Okay.
You know.
But you just like the fact that it was an original type
I
of
like
black
it was
movie.
original, and I don't think it was. It's. Were there elements of it where that was there? Yeah, but it wasn't like. I think like the clip Jake played or you played for Jake. That's her talking in interviews.
Right.
That's not in the movie where they're like, oh, you have to do this or anything like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because after I saw it, me and Jake were talking about it too, and I told him, I was like, I would have thought by the way people were describing it that would have been like a main theme of the movie, and it was barely in the movie.
No,
but it was like made known, like because even when the vampires came in, for example, like she had to do a little spell to figure out what was going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that spell that she did is the one she was talking about where they actually brought in someone to make sure that it was an accurate spell. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like they did that with The Craft as well. I remember they were bringing in actual witches to make them like cast really real spells. So I understand but I think what Jake is getting at is the fact that like even though it wasn't a major part of the movie, they talk about it like it is. They want to connect black people back with that root.
I think that could be like with Harry Potter. That's all those movies they're trying to connect people back to this like worship of like these spells. It's just a thing where people they want the script writers, the movies, they want you to believe that there's some power.
But here's the difference though, because Harry Potter, you're not gonna have people that are like, that's our history, man.
Oh, there was, man.
No. There's not people saying like, yo, we
gotta go back.
We gotta go back and do this abracadabra.
No, bro. The Harry Potter thing, I knew a girl that went full on Wiccan, full on going out to the summer's eve in the forest. It was full on. That stuff is real. Like people do get motivated by it.
I know there's people that get motivated by it, but I'm saying like those are people that just get lost in.
But isn't that a problem?
Yeah, it is.
That's
it is.
Too,
no,
right?
I'm saying people take these movies. They take these movies. And they run with it
because they did it with The Craft too.
They did it with The Craft.
There was a huge boom.
Dude,
in
I was a big fan of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and Dad and I were talking about this, and I was like, "Oh, I just loved it. I just loved the movie." But if you go and start reading Gerald Tolkien's work, it was all in Druidism. It's all in like the ideas of the races and the orcs are black people, and the elves are the Nordics. You know what I mean? Like it all goes into this weird thing. And I didn't know any of this stuff. I just thought it was cool.
Right. So then you're actually speaking to the fact that like there is a seduction there that happens. You know, with these type of films. Especially when you overtly like try to connect it to your race and your heritage and like
of course
because and this is the only thing I got the only thing that was annoying to me from the film. I'll be honest with you, because I thought it was done.
You watch it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought it was done amazingly.
Yeah.
Like the way he shot it, I thought like he's very talented. You know, I thought Michael B. Jordan played the twins amazingly. But you know, Jake did point out something to me about him that he said before too, and he has openly said that he is, what did he say he is, Jake?
He's a Babaloa.
A Babaloa, yeah, which is basically a witch doctor in like one of these African cultures. Like he said that that's what he is in an interview.
And if anybody, heard Celia Cruz or Celia Cruz or even Ricky Ricardo, they have songs Babalu.
Yeah.
Like that Babalu that comes from Babaloa. So this is all.
Right,
the
witchcraft. Yeah.
So I thought the movie was done well. It was annoying to me. Just I feel like every time a black director makes a movie, it's always got to be about white and black racial tension. You know what I mean? And there was like a lot of like the fact that the white girl was the reason that the vampires got in. You know what I mean? Like because he wanted to sleep with a white girl, that's why the vampires got in.
I didn't get that at all.
But that's what happened.
But I don't.
I've seen people say that, like that's what they got from it. Like that's what happened, right? Like because
she wanted to talk to them,
and they used her to gain access. You know what I mean?
You mean symbolism?
Yeah, because why? Because he was attracted to her. You know what I mean?
Well, she wasn't she was like a octoroon.
Right.
Her character was she's passing,
but she still
and she grew up with them.
But she still was white. Basically, her grandfather was half black.
Right, but that's true. There were black people who were white passing.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
he didn't make that up. Like
no, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm just talking about the overly like everything is so always about like racial and oppression and.
But how would you do a movie about the 1930s without mentioning that?
No, you have to. You have to. But I'm saying like there was a lot of stuff to it that it was just like I feel like overly done. Like it was like the music that they were singing was like so soft and peaceful, but they're really evil. The vampires, because there was a lot of music to it. Even like the scene where they're in the juke joint, right? And they're all and when he's playing his song and it gets like really intense, you start seeing all the generations of black music come together as one, right? And there's people twerking, there's all this stuff going on. And it's like all this stuff is like demonic stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's kind of what music, like that's a whole thing about Jake said he's going to expound on this, but the whole thing is this guy sold his soul. Music, the culture of music and the worship of music. This is what the story of him. I don't know I know he's a real musician.
Yeah.
I can't remember Sam something. But there's been a story about a man who sold his soul.
Well, there's been a few jazz blues musicians who wrote songs
Route 66.
They wrote songs about the devil,
right?
Meeting the devil, and the devil actually gave them their ability to play.
Right.
The blues has always been tied to the devil in that way, and they did touch. I was telling Jake about this too in the film. They did touch on the fact that because this dude was a preacher's son, but he wanted to play blues music so bad, and his dad tells him like, "Don't go out there with those sinners." That's why the movie's called Sinners, because they're all going to this juke joint and they're all sinners.
That's what everybody parents say about music.
Right.
We the music we loved when we were kids, like that's what our parents would call it.
But they are right in a sense, right? Because what do we experience when we go out? What do we experience at these places? What did they experience at the juke joint?
Oh, yeah.
It's people sleeping with people's wives, they're doing drugs, they're gambling, they're and then when he gets to the point where he's playing the music and rips the veil, as they were saying in the film, that's the main vampire says, that's what drew me here, was your music. You know what I mean? So I did like the fact that like they touched on that in the film. Like,
yeah, I don't think he left anything out to I think with that, he showed all of it. He showed like the lure to it and the cost of it. I think that's what a lot of people are missing too, is the cost of his love, which was heavy. He lost his cousins, and he came home scarred. His life was never the same.
But he still left at the end.
But it's like there's a cost with this thing. And
they're just spoiling the movie for me. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, we can't talk about it without. We can't censor it.
Yeah, especially if we're gonna really.
I thought it was a good movie. I think it was shot well. I would say there's undertones, but you have to know how to read through this thing.
Yeah,
I think the interviews with her and that kind of stuff, like a lot of black people in general, we don't know our culture. So she's British.
Yeah.
And
that was surprising as well.
Yeah, she's British. Yeah. And we don't know. So when we find this stuff, a lot of us, because it's been kept away from us, we think, oh wow, this is so new and fresh.
Right.
Because I know growing up in Trinidad, I didn't have a CVS. I didn't have a Walmart. I didn't have a ShopRite to go to. So you would call the people we would go to witch doctors but they weren't. They were just people who were there witch doctors? Yes.
Definitely was OB
but
men.
Were there people who were just herbologists that knew medicine?
Yeah.
That when my mom was giving birth to my sister, and that person came and was like, all right, go get this plant, go get this, go get this.
Right.
Like there was no saying.
That wasn't witchcraft.
It wasn't witchcraft. So, but under certain sects of that what would that be called? Because we were introduced to Pentecostalism,
Yeah.
and a very strict Orthodox version of it.
Yeah.
That was considered
the devil.
The devil.
Yeah.
But she could die.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like there's ways you could look at this thing and you could be like, what is the alternative?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Isn't there a part of the Bible where Jesus told somebody to heal themselves by putting some kind of root on them or something? I remember reading that one time, like, oh, he was doing some herbology.
Right. But being from there, I don't feel this lure to be like, oh my God, my culture, because I saw it. I saw what they would do. I saw how they would, my uncles, the elders in my family would take these plants, but no one set a seance, no one did any kind of weird thing.
Yeah.
It becomes salacious because a lot of times we're so far removed from, like when we talked about camping, fishing, hunting, like you can't just go pick berries and eat them. Some will cause problems.
Yeah,
or mushrooms.
You always tell that story of your one cousin when you guys were out in the bush and the machete chopped his face.
Yeah, and my uncle told me what to do.
Yeah.
And he, not in that moment, he told me, he said, whenever you're out, if this happens, do this. Because banana sap is very sticky.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that. And
Yeah.
if we didn't do that, he would have bled out.
Yeah.
We're talking 90-degree weather. He cuts a vine, but the vine was dry rotted. He hits it, and the machete bounces back and hits him in his face. And a giant gash. And I remembered, go get this thing. So I think what people are missing is this. Because of this lack of connection to what God created, actual nature, we don't worship the creature. We worship in the we're not worshiping God, we're worshiping the creation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, when you hear people, when I hear people talking like this, it's more this. They're so out of touch with this connection that God made this, that they start to worship the creation and not the creator.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, she's talking about it in glorifying the religion.
Oh yeah,
You know.
because again, she probably has never even been there.
Right. But it's
You know?
just the idea, like you said, it's the idea of something new, something that I didn't know existed, and
Right.
now I'm finding out about it for the first time. So it's so intriguing.
I'm gonna tell you, with the music connection, when I first discovered, that was a spiritual experience for me, because I was like, man, I want to learn to play bass.
Yeah.
I want to go do this.
Yeah.
And I mean, could you imagine if I did?
Yeah, if you picked it up and you was just killing
And
it.
I would probably be in the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a form of work. Like I was worshiping the music because
Yeah.
I wasn't introduced to it. You know what I mean?
And that's the crazy part about like the film too, is when he won't let the guitar go. You could
Mhm.
tell like he worships that guitar more than anything.
Yeah.
Let's play a little bit of this Ryan Coogler stuff. I'm gonna play the clip of him talking about the twin stuff first, Jake. Just because we mentioned it. Okay. What I'm talking about this clip you sent me.
Primarily about Africans in America. If you know the history of foundational Black Americans, they come from West Africa.
Okay. Okay, I got you. We got a bunch of videos. You gave me a bunch of videos. Yeah. I don't remember seeing it, so I'm gonna play it.
Right? In Nigeria, there is a deity, a twin deity in the Yoruba religion. You know, Yoruba people over-indexing the birth rate of fraternal twins. It's a thing that we reckon with. And I was born into a family that's littered with them. Like, so my mom's older sisters, Marilyn and Curlin, Monty Curlin was my godmother. And so my whole life, I could always tell them apart, even though they're completely identical. You know, just by how one holds her face. You know what I mean? Like, they could come into a room behind me, and I can know which one it is. You know, so I have a sensitivity towards this very, very rare, still small, very prominent human condition.
And blues was a type of music that used to be.
Yeah, I just wanted to show that because even that symbolically he was tying that back to Yoruba, the twin thing. You know what I mean? Which is interesting because like you're saying, it wasn't a major story plot line, but it's woven in very symbolic ways. You know what I mean? So, you know, we do have to be aware of.
Oh, I mean, every movie, if you really break them down, there's a message.
Right.
There's a message. For me, the appreciation I had for it was more, I think, what I was saying was more to do with an original story that wasn't necessarily a story that was like 12 years a slave. Wife gets beaten. Like I was saying this to Shaniqua. I was like, something different. Like I think sometimes when too many people tell your story, when this comes along, the attraction to it is you feel like here he is, he's young, he's kind of speaking to younger people, and it's not the typical story where it's not a real story. It's not necessarily it's based on true, but it's not a true event because there's vampires in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's because it's a different concept, and it's so different from the comic movies, the Tyler Perry stuff. That's what I think a lot of people are attracted to. It's like it's different. It's not the typical black story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, here we go again, with The Help, or the Tyler Perry stuff, or like, the 12 Years a Slave, or this. It's like it's a different take on Southern black life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's what people were attracted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were, but there is a lot of people that are awakened to this culture and this identity within the Yoruba and these more.
Man, when people find out that they got to touch bugs, they're done. when they find out that they got to like do this kind of.
Mom, can you pull Jake? Can you click on Jake? Oh, there you go. Huh? What'd you say, Jake?
You don't have to touch bugs to participate in the religion.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm just saying that all these people who are talking like that, when they find out what you got to do, a lot of them are like, nah, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
No, but they don't have to do that though. They just have to participate in the religion. You know what I mean? That's the point, is that they're going to participate in something. Even, I'm not going to say much more. I just want to get to the video. Because I don't want to keep talking about it. So.
All right, here we go. I'll play the video of Ryan Coogler. I don't know if I can bring it up, though, because it's Breakfast Club stuff, too. Right? And they're going to copyright us. So I'm just going to...
Is that Exhibit?
Nah, that's him.
He's trying to make a joke. He worked hard on that, boy.
That was a failure. Okay. Well, we'll just get the audio.
That's how you guys brain like
came from a lot of different angles, man. But the most focused angle of it was my relationship with my Uncle James. He was my Uncle James, and he was born and raised in Mississippi, but then fled to Oakland when he was like in his 20s. So that's where I was born. And we probably like the second wave of the Great Migration, right? And he was basically like the oldest member of my family oldest male member of my family for a long time. And when my parents couldn't afford to buy a house in Oakland, we ended up moving to Richmond, which is essentially like Newark would be here in New York, right? If Oakland was Brooklyn. And shortly after we moved, my Uncle James, his family moved. It was like down the block from me, So I would go spend time with him. I wanted to get out the house, I could walk to his house. And all he would do when he was off from work is he would listen to either watch a San Francisco Giants game on TV, or he would listen to it on the radio if it wasn't televised. He'd drink Old Taylor whiskey and play blues records on vinyl. You know what I'm saying? And I came to associate that music with him. I didn't think about the music. For me, it was it was rap and R&B, right? But in 2015, he ended up passing away, and he got sick while I was making Creed. So I was in Philly for most of the time while he was sick. Then I had to go to LA, you know what I'm saying, and do post production. And I got the call that he died while I was like, I don't know, like picture locking or something. And I felt like shit, bro. Can I cuss on this? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I felt like shit, bro. I remember being in the hallway with my wife who produced this movie, Sinners, and just feeling like what the fuck am I doing, man? I'm not at home with my, you know what I'm saying? I'm like in a hallway in the middle of LA in some dirty production facility, you know what I'm saying? And that guilt associated with that, bro. I missed so much from that house, bro. Like basically everybody from that house passed away, man. Like the only OG that's left is my auntie Wendy. And I missed all of the last moments with them people because I was pursuing my dream. Right, you know what I'm saying? Right. And I made it home for the funeral, but I never reckoned with that feeling of not being there with somebody who was so important to me. And so I would find myself when I was thinking about him playing like all blues records. You feel me? Like and when I would listen to him, it was like if I closed my eyes, like he was there with me. You know what I'm saying? Like the power of music to be able to do that, right? I would often find myself putting on those old blues records to remind myself of him, and it would almost be like I was conjuring him. Like if I listened to it long enough and closed my eyes, I could feel him like kind of listening along with me, maybe telling me a story again.
That was the first video.
There they go. They're always talking about
Conjuring,
conjuring, spirits and conjuring ancestors.
So you see how there's a guilt there, you know, because he that I think that was something key. Like, you go to pursue your dreams,
Yeah.
and then you realize like it's not, it's not what you thought it was going to be.
To find my way, right? The
Yeah.
song? Yeah.
I was gonna say that, and then I was
Yeah.
like, it's not really what it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go out and you try to do this stuff, and then you get hit with something like that. Like, his Uncle James died, and he goes into like other people died in his family, and you're like, you're not around, so you feel guilty,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're not there for your family, and there he like goes into this guilt thing a lot, and he goes into the story, and he's this is like he's talking about, this is like the reasons why he did this movie. So the blues, the music thing, but also the guilt, you know, ancestors, family, you know, like, just want to put that out there. Like,
Yeah.
this is where he's going with all this.
The blues thing stemmed from his uncle, who was a part of the Great Migration, who loved the blues, and he would just sit with him and listen to blues records all the time.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Okay.
There was another element to it. So I've been making films based on other things basically my whole career, right? Like my first feature film was Fruitville, and that was based on a real thing that happened. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from, right? And it's only so many ways you tell that story. And then I was fortunate to make a movie in the Rocky universe, right? You know what I'm saying? A movie about Apollo Creed's son, and like I hired for Black Panther movies. You know what I'm saying? You know, so these are all stuff based on other things. So I'm on Panther 2, and it's taken a long time. We had a lot of experience, a lot of tragedy, a lot of misfortune. It's a lot of shit that wasn't just us, by the way. It was during the global pandemic. You know what I'm saying? And you know, tragically lost our actor. Rest in peace. So I had to refigure that out. You know what I'm saying? And keep it together with everybody who's involved. Still want to make something. And our lead actress, lovely Letitia Wright, was injured on set. Had to shut down for that. Omicron shut us down, and you know, in Atlanta, it ended up being like a 4-year movie, bro. Wow. And I remember we was going through maybe the worst of it, man. And what would get me through, you know, so while I was out there, was listening to some of my favorite artists, bro. And I was listening to a lot of Nip, rest in peace. I was listening to a lot of Dolph, right? Rest in peace. But when I was listening to Dolph, bro, it wasn't rest in peace yet, bro. It wasn't rest in peace yet. And I'll never forget, bro. I think it was November 17th, 2021. I'm in Byron, Georgia, bro. And I see my first cotton field, bro, I've seen in my life. Wow. We riding, and I saw it. I told the driver, "Hey man, pull over." You know what I'm saying? Bounced out. I never seen one before. I literally like went into the field just to see it, bro. I was having like a crazy ass, you know what I'm saying, moment. Like what that felt like. Keep it 100, bro. I couldn't describe it, bro, because like I felt guilty. I felt like, you know, I've been on this show, bro, talking about going to Africa. You know what I'm saying? And I want to get tapped in with my ancestors, but then with my ancestors 400 years removed. This was my ancestors 100 years removed. Hadn't been there, hadn't seen it. You know what I'm saying? So it was like all the sense of guilt when
he said, I mean, it's kind of fast.
A lot of guilt.
Yeah. He said he's been wanting to go to Africa so he can get with his ancestors. But
he said I felt guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He felt guilty when he was going through the cotton field. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is all happening at this time, and he's like, he did the Africa thing in the movie. You know, he's doing the second run of Black Panther at this time, the issues. And he said he went to Africa for Black Panther, but now they're trying to wrap up Black Panther. He's in Atlanta. He goes to this cotton field.
Yeah.
And now he's like, he pulls over. He feels guilty because now he's thinking about, he said they were, you know, hundreds of years removed. Now this is only like maybe 100 years removed.
Yeah.
So, and then he said, I felt that guilt. So I wanted to point that out because again, it goes back to this guilt. Because when you feel guilt, you feel like you got to do something to make up for it, right? You have to appease, right? You have
to honor them in some way. Yeah.
And I think this is a part of the flesh. With like, if you look at when we have guilt, every religion is about what you do, right? How you make up for it, except for Christianity, right? Except for Jesus is the one that takes our guilt away. We submit ourselves to Jesus. So it's a totally different way of seeing things. But in every other religion, it's about like you feel bad, and then you go and try to do things and work your way out of the stuff you've gone through, right? Whether it's Islam, whether it's even Judaism, all these things are connected to doing works, right? Doing things that will bring peace into your life that's not real.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody can really take the sin away. But you feel like, why do you feel guilt? Because you're doing your own, he's thinking in his mind, I'm over here trying to do my own selfish stuff, trying to build a name for myself. But then I'm realizing I'm disrespecting people that I should be honoring. Right? Because I'm just going out for myself. I should be helping my people. I should be just this is how he's thinking, right?
More than anything, right? And I'm in the South working on Panther 2. I'm seeing cotton farms for the first time in my life. I'm in Byron, Georgia, you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking about this thing that happens to us as gangster rap fans that we've sadly become accustomed to, of an artist being monumental and influencing our lives and rapping about navigating the same things we navigate and they succumb to it, right? And I believe that day when I heard he was murdered. So, you know, I never met this dude. I never met Nip. You know what I'm saying? But I felt like but I felt like I knew him. You know what I'm saying? Like from the music and I remember being like, man, fuck this. Like, cause you gotta keep in mind, I was in the Bay, bro, going to football practice with my homies. We heard Pac died, and we would see Pac. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shut our whole football practice down. The mamas was crying, the coaches was crying, and I'm like, bro, as a fan of this music, bro, it's been a lifetime of this shit, bro. Like, it's just constant, like this flood of bodies. You know what I'm saying? That's lost. And with Nip and Dolph, it hurt so much because they was my age, and I thought that they made it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought they'd beat, 25, 27. You know, they rapping luxury rap now about their businesses and their kids, and then boom, you know what I'm saying? Back to back, like being in Philly on Creed and hearing that the Jacket rest in peace got killed. You know what I'm saying? Or that Keep the Sneak got shot in the back, he paralyzed now. Like, I'm like, my homies that came up and was rapping, he y'all never heard of. You feel me? Like that. And I'm like, bro, I can't listen to this music right now, bro. I gotta take a break. You know what I mean? And I remember venting to my producer, who's from Central California, he's from Clovis, black man, but from a different culture there. And I say, bro, what kind of music is there, bro, where the artist talks about how to navigate where they from, how to escape all the demons they dealing with, man. They succeed, get to their 30s, and still fall victim to this shit, bro. What music exists like this? I was saying it like he looked at me, he's a smart dude, Nate Moore. He looked at me, bro, and like in a real empathetic way, considered it, and he was like, man, my favorite music like that. I said, what music is that? He said, man, grunge music. I said, huh? He said, yeah, man. He said, we just lost Chris Cornell, bro. He was in his 50s.
Yeah, they overdosed a lot.
Yeah, he was like, all the music is about struggling with, you know what I'm saying, struggling with like demons, depression, and trying to kick dope, you know what I mean? And they end up, they get all the money in the world, they end up dying in hotel rooms. You know, I said, damn. You know, and what's crazy is, in the Bay, our biggest radio station, 106.1 KM Hill, and the only rock song that ever played on that station, bro, coming up was Nirvana, which smelled like Teen Spirit. So I was like, man, let me dig into this grunge music. I'm gonna take a break from, you know what I'm saying, from rapping and listen to some grunge. And I started listening to it, bro, and I was like, man, this shit sound like what my uncle used to play. Like I was listening to the blues. Like, it's literally, like, I'm listening to it, I'm listening to the guitar riffs and like what they talking about and like the passion they sing with, and I'm like, that's odd. Man, I dug into the research, man, and that's exactly what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just blues music sung by white people. You know what I'm saying? And that was when I was like, and it's just like within the same 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? That's when I was like, man, sharecropping, blues, the evolution of it, the racist origins of genre as a concept. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's a movie in this. You know, and it put me in a mode of studying the musician. You know what I'm saying? And the type of music that was coming out that my uncle listened to. You know, I interrogated it, you know what I'm saying? And that was really where the idea came from for the movie. It was all of those things. And coming off of spending so much time making, like 2 comic book movies and a boxing movie. And you know, I wanted to make something original. You know, I was really from my soul. You know, so when I got this idea to make this movie, I wanted to dive into like what Mississippi was, what that Delta blues music was, what was it about that region? And when I investigated it, you know, that this time, you know, like the late 20s, early 30s was really like that time when it really took off. You know, the blues as we know it, and a lot of mythology, a lot of spirituality, you know, a lot of the supernatural vibe is right there in the music. A lot of these musicians had songs about being haunted by the devil and being chased by their worst nightmares and trying to escape certain things, both natural and supernatural. One of the more famous tales is the tale of Robert Johnson, who went to the crossroads and well, he had a song called Hellhounds on My Trail. Yeah, and he had Me and the Devil Blues is the famous one. You know, but the legend had it that he went to the crossroads. He wasn't that good of a guitar player. Went to the crossroads one night, and you know, in Western concepts, I said the devil came to him and tuned his guitar for him for the price of his soul, and he came back playing better than anybody had ever heard. As I researched, I learned that it wasn't necessarily the devil, but it was a figure named Papa Legba, you know, who's a African deity. And you know, once I unlocked that, it it became fascinating for me. And I learned that this contribution, man, like the Delta Blues, is really like America's greatest contribution to global popular culture. And at that time, in that place, it was very hard to be black and be seen as a human being. And through that affirmation, they gave the world a gift that continues to give, and it gives internationally. And I'm just a big horror movie fan, bro. I like horror and all this fashion. And nobody really knew that about me. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the movies that I made. So I put that with it too. And this is how we got sinners. If that makes sense. I mean, like.
Okay.
So
that was long.
Mean, it was long, but it was
a lot.
Was everything.
It was basically him explaining how he came up with the concept.
Mm-hmm.
So it is tied to exploring racism, exploring the blues, exploring, even how like music can
the line of it, and
like how the blues influenced grunge music and even hip hop. But it is interesting that he talked about like all of the hip hop artists that die, because of the culture around it, So
he doesn't know how to he was frustrated. He's like, I don't know how to reconcile this stuff.
Yeah, he even said, I got to stop listening to this music.
Yeah,
he needs to take a break from it.
Yeah, take a break from it.
Because he's like, how is it that this is the only music where you get out of it, but yet you still die from the same thing?
Yeah.
Like you think you got out, but you didn't really get out. Because.
But that tells you that there's demonic. Well, then he said his friend. Was it his friend or is his?
Yeah,
that he listens to grunge.
Yeah.
But I listen to music that where they do die too. It's just they talk about a different demon.
Yeah.
And
depression.
That's what it is. Like they talk about struggling with Nirvana, struggling with
anxiety and
depression, and then dealing with drugs, and then he dies from drugs.
Yeah. When you listen to a lot of those songs too, not just hip hop, but Jim Morrison, Led Zeppelin, they talked about that too. They talked about selling their souls.
Oh, absolutely.
For fame and fortune. A lot of people. I can't remember her name. Janis Joplin. Drugs.
So wouldn't that technically make sense for people to say like, yo, this music is demonic, or this music is this is the devil's music? Like it would make sense, right?
Which genre?
All of it. They were talking all of it. The people.
But even like the songs that we don't think is.
No, absolutely.
It's just a lot of music itself. When you really listen to the lyrics, I mean the chords may be different, but when you listen to the actual lyrics of it, you're like, whoa.
Right. What spirit is it bringing in? Like we're saying with Nirvana, with Pearl Jam, with that whole grunge scene. It was a spirit of depression, a spirit of like angst and like hopelessness. Like think about Jeremy and like Unforgiven, like these who's that, Metallica? Like these songs, like no, the Unforgiven song. You know that song. But yeah, like you when you would hear those songs, there's like a feeling of hopelessness to them, And then with a lot of these artists that he's talking about with hip hop, there's like a feeling of, just death and like.
Well, they say it in their songs.
Yeah.
They say it in their songs,
Yeah.
They openly speak about, I see myself, Tupac said it all the time. I see myself dying. Biggie said it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going back to, the movie connection between the pastor and, preacher boy type thing. And just this thing we always see happen, like where people go out into the world, because I think you're struggling with what you're dealing with. Like, think about it. If you're growing up at that time, what are you dealing with in the South? You're dealing with racism.
Yeah.
Obviously. You're dealing with poverty. You're dealing with a lot of things that you're like, if you're looking at it, where do you put that?
Yeah.
How do you
make
get
sense
rid
of it?
That? How do you make sense of it? So when people are not even acknowledging them things in churches, then that's where the disconnect is. You know, if you're not acting the way they think you should act, and this goes back into the work stuff. If you're not acting the way they think you should act, well, then you're not really saved, right?
Yeah.
Or not even just saved, but you're not blessed. You're not living blessed, right? But where's the nuance where we are struggling and we're giving that struggle to God? We're singing to God about our struggles, but also how we can overcome. I mean, that's the Psalms. That's what David sung about.
Yeah.
David sung about all the stuff that he went through.
Yeah.
You know, like this psalm is about when he was doing this. This psalm is about, like, it says it in the Psalms, right? So I think we miss that, and then we like there's this disconnect where believers can't suffer and deal with stuff. When no, we're supposed to suffer. We're supposed to go through hard things and struggle with it, but we're supposed to give that to God and let him process us through those things. You know what I mean? And if we don't do that, it becomes very destructive. And then you have artists like the blues, right? That where it got started, where there's an outlet there and people are connecting to the feeling because they're feeling it too.
Yeah.
You know, grunge music. Oh, I'm feeling that too. Oh, rap. Oh, I'm feeling that too. I'm going through that too. It's a familiarity of what you feel and what you experience.
Yeah,
right?
but you all are coming together and connecting over trauma, which is not, I mean,
Right.
now even in psychology, they call it trauma bonding. It's not, it's considered
Right.
toxic, right? But we don't
Yeah.
consider that when it comes to music. And
Right.
You said something about like the church back during that time, and they even touched on that in the film, which I thought they did a great job with the fact that this was the preacher's son, and the fact that the father couldn't recognize the gift that his son had, and like understand that, okay, this gift comes from God. How can we cultivate this? It was more of a put that guitar down. That guitar is for sinners.
Most of the artists, they came from Christian background.
Ryan Coogler said that in the Breakfast Club interview, that most of the original Delta Blues like guitar masters were sons of preachers. You know, but they probably felt like the church, there was no place for them there, and they have this gift. So they had to just lean into the other side and go with the devil.
Well,
there.
you just touch on it there too. Sometimes a father can mistakenly think by dismissing something, they think I'm saving them.
Yeah.
But like you said, like, son, this is a like, if Elise picked this up and she said, "Hey, Dad, I want to sing," you're gonna tell her the evilness of the industry. But if you admonish her and you're like, "This is hell and this is the worst,"
no daughter of mine will ever sing.
You know,
I think the connection is like we continue to repeat the things that we don't want to engage in.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like why doesn't he want to engage? Because it makes him feel insecure. It makes him feel ashamed. It makes him feel.
You're talking about the father.
I'm talking about the father.
Yeah.
Right. He feels like he's out of his element. That's where you need the Lord, right? But
because I think there's also a lot of questions that pastors, especially during that time, didn't have answers for. Like, why are we? Why are if this God you're speaking about is real? Why are we dealing with what we're dealing with?
They
Why are those racists serving the same God that we're like they couldn't answer those questions.
Why are we in this condition?
Yeah. Why are we in? I think there was a lot of difficulty there for those churches back then.
And maybe some of them weren't qualified to be pastors too.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them weren't. Maybe they were just interested in the title. We don't know their hearts, but I'm
Yeah.
saying sometimes people are more interested in the title and the prestige of what that is, because I'm also discovering a lot of these pastors were Freemasons. A lot of them were tied into occultic stuff. They didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Just like I remember one time a pastor said, God put the bones in there to confuse man.
Yeah.
He didn't know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, so you're making up stuff.
Yeah.
But if, to a kid,
You just say whatever you want to say.
that's wild. You know what I mean?
It's so funny because like I see so many parallels with my own father and my grandfather, because my grandfather was a preacher and my father was a musician, and he went the total like he never.
And he was
and my grandfather was a Freemason. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. We didn't find that out till after he died, and we found the whole Mason handbook in his
You should have
house.
kept that.
I know, but I was 13. I didn't even really understand it at the time.
Well, you know who actually took it? It was my cousin, and he became a Freemason himself.
And then he became a Muslim.
Oh, they're in there too.
Yeah. He was the one that actually.
Donnie from Who Calls Me Again?
No.
Oh,
My cousin Donnie.
I never knew that was.
No. My cousin Donald. He passed away last year actually, but I remember specifically like me and Jake looking at this big book my grandfather had on this mantle right next to the Bible, and it had the compass and square on there, and we opened it up and we're looking at these like, remember the different handshakes that were in there and stuff. It was in the book.
The weird.
All the handshakes come from that.
Yeah. And my cousin Donnie, he was like, how much older than us was he? 10 years?
Something like that.
Yeah. So
maybe like 7.
He was in his 20s and he was breaking down everything for us, like what everything was, and like explaining to us what the Masons were. But we're kids. We didn't like. It was hard for us to kind of grasp that. It would just seem like
Martin's on. Leave me alone.
It just seemed like some other club that my grandfather was in. You know what I mean?
But I do remember like the pictures of like these guys from the 1700s.
Yeah.
You know, like, and they had like their hands were tied and they had one leg pant up, and then they had a noose.
Cool J. You got that from them.
They had a noose, like a broken noose around their neck.
Yeah.
And it was
symbology.
Just,
that was the initiation ritual. Yeah.
Right.
But don't you think if we really break down a lot of this and we start going in, the son's rebellion was really the proclamation that the father made. You're selling your generation to Satan.
Yeah.
So it's like we think it's an attack on the enemy, but if you're involved in this secret thing, you've made, and the sacrifice is usually a firstborn.
Yeah.
And especially the male.
Well, they never said that he was a Freemason, but I understand what you're saying. Like at that time, a lot of those pastors were.
They were.
Yeah.
And they were brought into that. When you really go back and you look into it, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even Joseph Smith was one. The founder of Jehovah's Witness was one. You go and watch the mausoleums. If you see the mausoleums where they're buried, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah, I know they were all Freemasons, and it's interesting.
But what I'm saying is like when you think about like music and their sons, the correlation I'm making is this. That we look at the musician and him selling his soul.
Yeah.
But it's the father that has sold his soul unknowingly to this thing, and the entity is claimed your generation. Because we could easily look at the musician and be like, you the devil music and you're playing that, but really the real sale was the dad.
Right.
The father, and then the demonic entity
has the right to
the lineage because that was the first sale right there. Unknowingly.
Again, again, how do you if you have understanding of these things, then you can reconcile them. And I think we cycle through this stuff. Like, if you think about it, like how long ago was slavery?
I don't think most of them know what it was, man. I think they were just doing it.
Well, that's my point. It's just like you're just doing music, you're just doing this, you're just doing that, but there's a reason behind everything. So now you're still like, because this guy Ryan Coogler, he's like, now I'm investigating it, and you can investigate the history of things. And when I unlocked that, what did you unlock? Oh, that this guy, it really wasn't the devil; it was this deity, this African deity, right?
Yeah.
That
he did mention that it wasn't the devil that he sold his soul to. It was this African deity.
He said that?
Yeah, Ryan Coogler said that. Like when he really researched it.
But what history doesn't tell you is the intentionality behind it, is what you're tapping into, is what you're allowing into your life. And this is why I think it's dangerous for people to watch this movie who don't understand, because we're just saying it. Well, they didn't know what they were getting into. Okay, so how many people are watching this movie don't know what they're getting into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know what they don't know what they're being seduced by, which is my point.
How many people?
Same thing with music.
Be able to
how much music did we listen to growing up that we didn't realize what we were being seduced by? Even when it comes, think about R&B, and think about like struggles with women, struggles with like, what are them songs about?
Well, a lot of people get into it for women.
But what I'm saying, so again, there's the seduction is there, but you can also just be lured into this lifestyle through hip hop and R&B because the whole concept about it is getting girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
even
you could just be thinking,
Cougar,
I just like these songs. I just like them. You know, it was just a good song. It was just written well, but you don't understand what it's doing to your spirit. It's just kind of like,
isn't that what you're saying about this movie?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's
just
done
like,
well. It's good.
It is, and it was, but yeah, you have to be mindful of what it's actually, what's the message in there, what spirit is the intentionality there, because just like reality shows, just like all of these things that we complain about that people watch and what it does to the spirit, these films can do that too, but it's more subtle. It's much more subtle and it's much more seductive because there's, you know, a lot of underlying messages there. And he's saying out of his own mouth what his intentions are with the film, what he wants to portray and who he's invoking with the film. Mm-hmm. He's talking about all these African deities between the twins and the blues music and, you know, ancestors and all this stuff. So, you know, the intentionality is already being spoken there. I do think that there was like I said, some good stuff about it, some redeeming qualities about it, of course, like we were talking about with the father and the son element and how it showed that relationship of how the preacher father kind of pushed his son into the arms of this demonic world, you know what I mean, as the son goes and experiences this juke joint night. The whole movie takes place over 24 hours. And, you know, they catch up with him when he's old because he survives. He's the only one that survives it. And they catch up with him when he's older. And, you know, he says something at the end like, you know, even after all of that, before it went bad, that was the best night of my life. You know what I mean? But he's just thinking about all of the debauchery that they were doing, you know, because he was having a great time playing music and there was people there having fun and doing whatever.
And at the end, he does offer him to live forever.
Yeah, he does, and he turns it down. Yeah,
he says, "I can make this last."
The vampire.
Yeah. But and that was another element of it, like when you think about sin in that way, because even to the point where he lured the demonic there with his music, because they said, "We came here because of your music." You still have to invite it in. Yeah. You still have to, like, it could not enter the building until someone invited it in, you know. And
you have to open the door.
And even with
his friend.
Like, even with the music, like, you know, it's funny. We say like, people are like, "Oh, can you go to the club and be Christian? Am I allowed to go to a club?" Well, you already are compromised.
Yeah.
You're asking the question, can I drink? You don't get, that's the intentionality behind it is the point. Once you're asking these questions, you miss the point, right? The point has to do with your heart. Who do you want to serve?
Yeah.
Do you want to serve yourself? So if I want to serve myself, I'm gonna ask, well, what can I do?
What can I get away with? Yeah.
What can I get away with doing? Right. And that's why we let things in. So, there's nothing wrong with this. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you're your own judge. So therefore, you're your own God now.
That's why we have things like the Talmud, right? Because it's like just arguing. All right, what can we technically get away with? Like,
yeah, that's why most Jews are. I mean, not most Jews, but there's a lot of Jewish lawyers because they're great at arguing the law, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing of the flesh. We're always arguing the law to try to get away with things, right? Or to put more burdens on people because we want to rule over them. However you want to look at it, you know, because and this is the thing that happened with the Pharisees, and you see the same thing in Islam. Like you put these rules, and you don't even. This is what Jesus said. You're putting all these heavy burdens on them, and you don't even follow these things yourself.
Yeah.
Is this your cousin?
Yep, that's him right there.
Yeah, your aunt just posted that.
That's crazy. My Aunt June.
Your aunt.
That's his mom.
That's his mom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's his mom. That's my first cousin. My brother. Yeah. My dad's sister's son.
Son, yeah.
Yep.
You guys are just talking about he popped up.
That's crazy. Phones listening.
biggest purpose is to put mixture into everything and make it seem like it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very subtly.
Mixture.
Lure
You said, Jamie,
Go ahead.
You said there was a scene where you seen like this vein line of the music, right? From blues to hip hop, right?
Yeah, it goes.
Did
It's
you
like
that?
yeah, it's like at the height of when the music is like reaching its peak and everyone is having a great time. It's this veil starts to rip and you start seeing like generationally all. It doesn't just go from blues to hip hop. It goes all the way back to the ancestors' music as well. Like all of that starts to emerge in the room at the same time.
Right. So, and it's like a false veil. You know what I mean? It's because what the thing is, the funny part is, it all leads to destruction, right? Like that's if we look at it unbiasedly, like it leads you to destruction.
Yeah.
Look at where music has gone in terms of most Black culture, right? In terms of what Black culture holds to mostly, it's destructive.
Yeah.
Right. It's very damaging to us. What is the highest crime rate? Black on black crime, right? In terms of how would you say it? Like per capita? You know what I mean? Like it's So why? Because of what we've let in. Because of what and we don't even know why we do it again. So there has to be, and I think that's the biggest thing. Ryan Coogler don't know why. He's asking and he's trying to find, and that's what I can appreciate about him. So he's trying to find it, but the only place he's going to find it is with God, right?
Yeah.
And I can appreciate the genuineness of him trying to find it, but sometimes when you're too genuine with things, you let the wrong things in, and that's where they go wrong. You let the wrong spirits in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else anybody want to say about the film?
I know nothing about it. I was confused. I was like, is it a vampire movie? Is it a voodoo movie?
It's kind of like, but that's why there's elements of all of that in there. Like he wanted to make a vampire film, but also tie it to the history of Delta blues and like Black culture and African roots. Like, so all of that is that's why it's a unique story. That's never been done before. And like the way he did it and the performances are amazing, the fact
he's talented.
Yeah. Even Michael B. Jordan, like I will say, like the way that he was able to play a twin and the subtleties of the personalities, because they both had different personalities. And you could tell, you know what I mean? Like he did that really well.
Well, I caught some interviews about that, and even that was like he would come on set as the twin. So when you would talk to him, because I remember, I think Ryan Coogler said something that was scary. He was like, when he came on set, you could tell which twin he was.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, that method acting type stuff, like it's a little demonic to me.
They tap into spirits.
It gets. I mean, look at Heath Ledger. A lot of people that do that method acting and get into these dark characters, some of them never make it out. Yeah, Jared Leto's another example. But yeah, he actually got that from Chadwick Boseman, because I heard them talking about that in an interview before too, that Ryan pointed that out to him when they were doing Black Panther, because Chadwick would come in, he would even do meetings with executives as T'Challa. Like he never broke character.
Really?
So Ryan pointed that out to Michael B. Jordan, like, yo, you see that right there? Like that's how you need to embody a role right there. And so that's why he even said it in the interview that was his approach to playing these twins, was he wanted to embody them completely,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's why, like, these things are dangerous, right? I can understand how people could get into these things. I can understand how that you could fall into these things, but I'm just saying that it's dangerous. And you see
I mean, well, that's evident. There's a reason why most actors are not normal. There's a reason why most actors are on drugs, why they end up, in a bad way. There's a reason why a lot of them can't handle, mentally they can't handle it, because there is something to be said about like when you're constantly invoking of these other personalities, you know what I mean? Like when you like go that far, when you cross that line, like where is that line?
You're inviting it in like a Ouija board.
Right. So it is strange.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, man. Let's wrap it up there. Where are we at? I think we got to everything. Yeah, let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching. Courtney said she wanted to jump. She wanted to call in on this conversation too, but she was busy. So, Denver Uncle Denny said, "Never wear a devil's mask on Halloween." That's right.
It's a fallen world, man.
Yeah.
All of this world belongs to Satan. Everything that we do, everything that we've been doing is a pagan world.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like the things we celebrate, it seems innocent, you know what I mean? It's self. Even celebrating your birthday can be a form of self-worship.
It is.
It's my birthday.
Yeah.
Everybody wish me birthday.
Right.
All of these little things that we do is a form of worship.
Yeah.
And
we just follow the world and get caught up in it.
Yeah, and I think it's like you don't want to live your life where you're kind of everything you're on guard, but you have to be careful. But this world belongs to Satan. When he tempted Jesus and he said, "Hey, look on this world. Look, I'll give you these kingdoms."
Mm-hmm.
That was a showing that Satan really runs this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because of man's sin, we gave him dominion over this thing.
Yeah,
and he runs it. He rules it. So everything he's in. What I've recently learned? Well, I've learned it a while, but recently in our church, our pastor started talking about most of these songs in the Christian church were written by people who have denounced Christianity. They were writers.
You're talking about like the hymns and stuff.
The hymns and stuff like that. Some of them weren't.
Yeah,
we sing them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
they were just money makers for them.
They were just money makers.
Yeah,
put these things together, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Yep. Certain songs he refuses to sing in the church and he explained why we're gonna go back to the old hymns.
Yeah,
and he talked about that. He talked about like you got to look into these people. In going to including going to these places. Next 1 week. A secular artist is here, and next week you're there.
Yeah.
And it's the same environment. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same temple. You're in the same temple.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you start learning about this stuff. You're like, wow, it's a lot.
We have to be mindful, man. We have to be aware. And I think that's the point of what we're trying to make about a film like this. And really any film that you go see.
Yeah.
Like, because, and the reason why it's especially for Black people is because there's such a like desire to connect with our identity that we are willing to like open ourselves up to so many terrible things.
And I think you can, though. I think you can connect to your identity without worshiping the identity.
But that's the problem, is that I think that because there's such a trauma there, that it has that hole that's ready to be filled.
Yeah. And most of these... Go ahead. What are you saying?
Our identity is in Christ. Like, that's where we get our identity.
No, I know that. But I'm talking about most of the Black Americans, Black British people, Black people from the Caribbean, well, mostly British and American, is they haven't gone back to their home. They're not from there. So when they hear this stuff, they feel like, oh, I want to connect and I want to, and they hear these little things because I never saw any of these interviews. I didn't pay attention to any of that. This is more like them on the circuit doing their thing. And I think they're trying to show people that I try to connect with my roots and, and I try to embody this character.
Yeah.
But isn't that like to even think that way is again, it's a carnal way of thinking. It's our old nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know
Where we
what their I don't know what their belief is. I don't know if they even if they are, they're probably not even Christians.
Maybe through maybe through the most traumatic experience, like something like slavery, God disconnected a sect of black people from their roots from a reason. Sometimes you got to pluck something by the roots and move it. What does it say about the tree?
What?
You have to
trim the branch.
No, you have to pluck it up by the roots and move it into the ocean or something like that.
But here's a crazy thing, though. It's really the ones that were under this traumatic. Because if you go to Africa, people think Africa is full of voodoo. There's a lot of Christians in Africa.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a big movement there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's those people that are removed.
I just read something about in Nigeria, all these Christians are being, killed.
Yeah.
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 I mean, where was that the biggest churches were in Africa first, like Egypt and Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Like even that. So it's just funny that we say
white man's religion.
Ethiopia's white man's religion.
Well, that's always been presented too.
Yeah.
It's we can't just be
because
like,
we're thinking of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, but it's been think about it, like when we say, we have to be transparent in saying that they didn't make the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston, and like there were certain movies that showed a certain.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So people, there's a lot of older people.
But it's not if you know the history of Christianity.
No, I know, but I'm saying I understand that, but I'm saying a lot of people don't know what we know.
Yeah.
So they see that and they see that as we're gonna do the opposite of that. We're talking because we know a little bit more, but I'm saying the average person who kind of skimmed the surface, they see those things, especially older people, and they're like, we want to flip that. It's like having a black Jesus. You know what I mean? It's like we want to just do the opposite of that. You know what I mean? That's all they're doing.
Shouldn't we all be responsible for doing our due diligence to know? Like you think about Polycarp, you think about Origen, a lot of these church fathers that write stuff, like a lot of them for Africa.
Yeah.
People don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, but that's just research. Like, if you really, just like Ryan Coogler did his research on this movie.
You'd be surprised when people don't do no research.
Yeah, they don't.
They're just responding. They just responding.
That's my point. Is that if you really want to, what I'm saying is that you know it by how deep you're gonna go. Like, if you really want to know something, then you're gonna search it out. If you don't really care and you just want to other something, well, then that's what's gonna happen. You other it.
Yeah, because a lot of people they don't care. They don't.
Yeah.
They just want to. They're reacting. I think a lot of times people are just reacting. Well, it went this way, and it's just like it's the same thing. Like with a lot of I've heard people say, "Oh, black skin is a curse, the curse of Ham."
Mm-hmm.
That was prevalent teaching. So now you find an African guy who's like, "No, see, the African man, the white man is from the caves,
right?
And he's a Neanderthal." And I've heard all these weird things because
they say he was created in a lab. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard that from Elijah Muhammad.
The white man was,
but it's like they're
the Mormons thought that the black people were the one that fought on the devil's side.
Yeah.
No, they remain neutral.
They remain neutral.
And they were cursed with black skin.
Yeah.
It's all these weird reactionary. They did this, so we're gonna do this.
Right. This is what we were talking about earlier, right? Carmelo Anthony, and now
we're
this chick.
we're reacting to that.
Yeah.
But again, this is all how we feel comfortable in our flesh, like in our old nature. You know what I mean? Where we reconcile things not through Christ, but through our own mind, not through the mind of Christ, but through our own minds. And then we settle on these things. But it's the thing is, like, how do you bring peace between?
I know, right?
Yeah, how do you bring? I thought we were done, and then James started.
No.
But how do you bring peace? Like, how Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Mm-hmm. Right. So when you're
that's
going
the one that
to
got Candace Owens canceled, tweeting that out.
She got canceled because you talking about the Jews.
No, that's what started it. She tweeted that out, and then Ben Shapiro tweeted out something to her like, "If you don't like your job, you can quit."
Yeah.
Because she said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." He took that as she was targeting that towards Israel because this was when Israel was retaliating against Hamas. Yeah. So, but go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
It's all right. If you're to reconcile things, it's not easy. You're gonna have to go through suffering. You're gonna have to deal with stuff that doesn't make sense. And when we don't deal with it with God, we make up stuff that don't make sense. Like Mormons, like Muslims. You know, there's a thing about black people and Muslims too, right?
Yeah.
You know, like Jehovah's Witness, whatever. You make things up to reconcile things instead of seeking after God and not jumping to conclusions. We show how we are, and it goes back to the pastor who says this is the devil's music. Okay, but how and why and how does it make sense, and how can you articulate this? And that's where it has to be deeper, because you can't just say this is the devil. And I think a lot of people have been doing that with this movie, like, oh, this movie's demonic. Okay, but and I agree that there's demonic things going on in this movie, but you gotta talk about it in a way that makes sense. You can't just say something's demonic, don't watch it, right? And I think we're attempting to do that here.
Yeah.
Right? We're attempting to go
and then those same people go on to watch basketball and bet 5,000.
Yeah, right.
Bet this King's Sport. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Go to the casinos.
Yeah.
Bet 5,000.
Right.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Right. Yeah, definitely. All right, let me wrap it up, dude. We didn't even get to. I wanted to get to Indians pooping in the streets. I wanted to get to
Indians pooping.
He's like, I'm looking at you, James.
Yeah,
there was
I saw a TED talk about Indians pooping in the streets, man.
What?
And I also saw a video of the Chinese have been using human brain cells in their robots.
Oh, bro, what?
Yes, you know they don't have no regulations there. So they've been using they've been constructing these miniature brains, and they've done like miniature mice brains, and they've put them on drones and stuff like that.
They like everything small, I see.
So now they're doing.
Are they using Uyghur brains?
Who knows? But they're using stem cells to construct these miniature brains, and then put them in their AI robots. And they're saying like the learning is multiplied by some exponential rate.
They always do that, and then when I see the robots can't get up the stairs. And they're like, it costs $10 billion, and the robot's
I don't know. It's getting better, dude.
Nah.
I saw a video of a lady like pushing the robot. And it's getting back up.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you see the one that was helping the dude with his tools? Remember that robot?
Nobody threw some water in it yet. I'm going with a bucket of water.
Yeah, I don't think
That's my
they
plan.
didn't think
I
of
think it
that
doesn't work, and I was like, oh, hell.
Yeah, so they thought of everything else except water.
I tried. Help! This robot is immune to water.
All right, I gotta get up at 4:30.
All right, guys. Wrapping it up. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate everybody. Make sure you go to Patreon. Follow us over there, patreon.com/youngliontv. Head on over to the website, jatan.com/shop to get some merch and music. Next week, we're not gonna do a podcast because I gotta go somewhere. I gotta do a live stream. Unless we do it a different day next week. Y'all let me know. But other than that, we'll see everybody soon. Peace.
Young lion go live, yeah. Young lion, you rich, yeah.